Alright, I'm welcoming myself back to talking in front of a camera, so and I guess that welcome extends to people that are interested in this format. I haven't published any videos yet. I'm at, 4 or 5, and I'm kind of right at that critical point where I'm like, there's a lot of reasons not to, but always those reasons not to are like for sure reasons for. I'm going to share quickly my sleep schedule. Want to talk about dreams and specifically bullying. It's a topic, it's something that I have to deal with on a daily basis. If there's two ailments I have to really take charge in my life, it's mental illness and the repercussions of severe bullying as a child. And even when I say that, it's like, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, it's amazing how something that wasn't that big of a deal is a big deal. But I've got some positive news in the topic of like how dreams have helped me kind of shape my reality around this topic of bullying and maybe coming to amends. I have to come to amends on a daily basis. So that's going to be the topic for the evening. I definitely want to use my strategy of see one, do one. If I have a thought in my head that I want to explore, I'm going to do that. Also, I need to have catchphrases for any of that woo-woo stuff. So I might just say woo-woo, sci-fi, fiction, because I'm fascinated. Christmas was still today. I woke up at 2 a.m. and a little bit sick. That's a good thing. Get back to that. But Christmas, I was going to do the full shebang. I go to my brother's house, have breakfast, family. They have a couple kids. Go with my folks to Bozeman. They have family, a couple kids. I really enjoy the social aspect of getting together with my family. Always just very fascinating. And even with my brothers, I get a lot of time to maybe it's like, hey, let's spend... and I do a good job of listening too. But I do like to talk about specific topics. And yeah, it's entertaining. This year, though, I was a little sick. I didn't go to Bozeman, but I did go to my brother's house. Had caffeine. Woke up at 2, had caffeine at 10, but able to get to sleep, just 1 cup, at 2 in the afternoon. If there's a balance between sleep deprived, caught up, or like surplus, like just really solid, good sleep, I'm probably in the caught up. But then I was reading some literature that even if you're like caught up on numbers, your body can still be behind. So that was kind of an interesting thing to read. I guess topics on that are, I don't know, I might be at a point in my life where, whoa, this is hard doing it myself. My sleep schedule might be too out of whack. Maybe med intervention, pharmaceuticals. That's totally new to me because usually I'm very, I've been having a plan that I want to stick to and kind of work through things myself. I just, like, how amazing is that when you can take something that basically most of the world can't handle on their own, and I've found very intelligible ways to work through severe mental illness. And there's no question about it that I do have severe mental illness. It's not just I don't have symptoms when I'm, doing well, and the second I'm not doing well, like, oh. But yeah, there's a lot to be gained there. So just checking back on my sleep, I don't need to really go into it, but maybe just sleeping 4 hours here going a shorter day and sleeping 4. But since I am sick, I'm really focusing on sleep and rest. What happens is my back, my back issues start to hurt. It's kind of a downward spiral. But also inactivity can make those worse. So I've been trying to stay on top of stretching, but I do need a lot of rest and not pushing myself beyond the normal day. Anything over 16 hours would be too much of a wake. I was saying sometimes my body wants to stay up for 20 hours, 24. If I only got like 1 or 2 hours of sleep and then I go for another full day, I mean, it's like almost 36 hours of up. So really kind of coming to terms with that. So might talk about that topic. But Christmas is really good conversations. My fascinating topic, I mean, what I'm most curious currently is I'm just curious of like what people believe, how that affects their choices in life, and even some of the choices that, like, just speaking frankly, don't seem rational. But the person did change. Like, I find like, wow, I'm changing, certain things in my life. Like, what were the tipping points to actually kind of open up that mental rationality to be like, yeah. And then kind of what keeps me down a narrower path where it's like, no, like, I don't care if this is irrational, it's a habit. And I did actually talk to, like, that was one of the things. It's like, well, something can be a strong habit where obviously habits are hard to break, no matter where you get them from. Even if it's from an irrational, logical place in your brain. Like, I mean, humans run the whole gamut of habits, so, I mean, they're all from a natural place anyway. But it's just very interesting, like, when it comes to brass tacks, like one that I wouldn't have gotten this year was I got a flu shot. If I didn't get pricked 4 times with the corona shots, staying up on those vaccines, it was just like, at this point, I'm a pincushion anyway. Like, what the flu shot's just going to help. So that really helped my mind over that position. But I do, the reason I didn't do flu shots was like, and it comes back to see one, do one. Maybe we'll get to this bullying topic. I was like, it's maybe a short video, only 19 minutes. But if I ever am on a roll, I'm gonna go with it because I'll come up with ideas that are subconsciously very eager to get out, and that's probably better content. Kind of just forgot what I was gonna say, but the flu shot. I mentioned politics. Kind of my just glossed over generality of politics is like if like a person, like even me, holds a political view, it's probably like an ideology, and that's kind of what politics is getting at. It's an ideology, and it is. I've mentioned like, well, it's like you're trying to live 8 years from now, 16. You're trying to live in those terms, those political terms that we kind of set up, even just 2-year election cycle, 4, and how things play out over 8 to 16 years, kind of that. I mean, even from a scientific, political science perspective, like we are a political organism that for sure is shaped by 2-year, 4-year, 8-year, 16-year cycles, if you look at it from that perspective. But just from the idea of just like, no, I'm seeing an ideal of a world that doesn't exist but would like it to in, and I kind of mentioned how that comes back to democratic choices, which for me are very important, but it also brings up the topic of like why people make choices, and I know it's just a catch. Like, I mean, it should be more like saying a choice is rational should have some sort of more than just. But I mean, you know, I don't know. Even saying something's rational, that might be a very relativistic statement. Then you got to set parameters on like, well, how do we define rationality? And maybe I just haven't researched that topic of just from the debating standpoint. Very interested in like rationality, logical absolutes. If there's a way to show, definitively that no, your decisions are being made by rational or irrational choices. But for me, I think I can't get there. I'm still on the learning process. And one of the things that came up at Christmas, talking to my brother, is just like, yeah, it's like one of the topics. If I was into like a woo-woo topic, like, or just philosophy, spirituality, what I'm most interested in is psychology, because for whatever reason, I feel that whatever people do, is like I'm kind of like my philosophy kind of currently is like, well, whatever, like if you're trying to figure out, like what makes, things work, the universe tick, us function, like I kind of have this underlying like whatever is, even if like my brain can't rationalize it. It's like, if you're talking truth, like it would be like the Christian view of like saying, oh no, this is true, this is truth with a capital T. But I do like, stay on track, psychology. I'm just fascinated because, just from my perspective, like, I mean, if someone like me is making decisions from an irrational perspective, I just disagree that they're 100% irrational. They're, because I would look to determinism to be like, well, I'm already on a route to make these choices, and yes, there might be divergence where someone say my decisions are more rational, but all those waypoints are, from my perspective, kind of predetermined by environment anyway. To a degree, even if they're not, and you do have, this idea of like, no, I'm going to better my life. It came up to the topic. I was looking at my mental health when I first had episodes. I would potentially, that person, at a young age, 24, having serious depression, going into more mania, bipolar 1, hallucination type symptoms. Even in that depressive states where I am depressed, I'm using food as a way to satiate, like, I wasn't into drugs or alcohol, but food was kind of my way to really shut myself out and then just kind of eat to where I'd feel a little bit poisoned, or like eat till I don't feel good, purposefully eating foods to the point where I don't feel good. I did that, I would say, and this comes back to the topic of bullying, since being bullied. There was definitely, it was 4th grade, but it wasn't until I got caught up into a cycle of bullying where I was the easy target, and then, the sharks came out, and that came out in 6th grade, about halfway through. That really, it was the development of gang bullying, middle school. Let's say it's just 6 people, but those sharks lasted from 6th, 7th, and through 8th grade. I had a really good experience tonight with dreams kind of overcoming, and like I said, it'll be a daily basis, and I might ebb and flow between like, Jesus, it's not acceptable, and I have some negative inclination towards people that have bullied me in the past, no matter who they are, and to the point where it's just like, no, I feel like I'm in a very state of understanding, where it's, even from that philosophical perspective of like, determinism, they're coming from, they're already predetermined to like, be a bullying person. Like, even if I want to label it as a nasty person at a certain age. And I also, these dreams are nice because when I have a dream and I am relaying someone that did bully me in the dream, so let's say it's this group of 6, kind of these sharks, the topic it's like, well, my image of them in the dreams is always fairly, like, it's actually, I'll just speak frankly, their character in my dream is way better than normal life. And these are people, I have never seen this group of 6, let's say these sharks, these bullies, kind of use that as a general term, so you can identify that was the 6th through 8th grade, and it was only 6th through 8th grade. Once middle school happened, even my current group of friends was a little bit nasty, but these were people that would just seek me out, rile me up, physically push, kick. I was very, I don't even think it was, I was brought up with do no harm, like do not lash out, so maybe from those Christian views. And I can honestly say, this is where my philosophy, this is the only thing that I would, like, I want to be more curious minded. I want to open up other minds that are curious. Like, as a parent, if I ever was one, I would do things a certain way. I just won't have that maybe opportunity. But even through a camera, I can tell you values that I value and maybe wish I had access to as a child growing up. And then also which, and I've had, this last relationship, I was able to, just even for a short period of time, like 4 to 6 months, really be a parent or like a guide to a child. Yeah, and then that potentially would be a bully. This was very interesting. And so I got to use my skills from that perspective to maybe work on, and not taking someone who gets bullied, but someone who actually is the bully, to to really just instill trust, love, and I mean, the relationship is no more. So I mean, it might be another loss for this kid for sure. And just life is life. There's nothing I can do about that. It's just, but high quality, even for a short period of time. Yeah, high quality, like mentorship, relationships, friendships. I mean, just classically. I mean, even if the shorter, almost the sweeter. Like the more impactful those individuals will be on your life. And so no regrets, with understanding that, I'm not in a situation, long-term stability, I'm handicapped, I need a lot of support, and those are things that I'm still, there might be a day to really overcome those and feel like, but there might not. Certain disabilities, it's kind of a separate topic, but I mean, certain disabilities are expected to be like, people don't expect. It's just like if you did something normal, it's like that's like breaking the glass ceiling, or I mean, like, and I feel the same way. I feel the same way for me on a lot of topics. Of overcoming and leading a life that's, you know, I would have goals towards if it was normal. Um, but sometimes I don't even have goals towards that because I work in a reality of like, no, I have to, like, my life is challenging, but I also want to do things in the seams of those challenges, you know, and that's kind of my way of overcoming. Uh, yeah, determinism and bullying is kind of where, I mean, that's my perspective from like, oh, what should, what do you, I don't even want to speak for other people, but if I get to choose what my solution for getting bullied, if I get to go back in time and take this young child and say, what would, like, knowing what you know now, what is your solution? I mean, so it's a solution that's working potentially today, and oh yeah, it's, I mean, we live in a world that is cyclical, so like like this stuff don't go away, but solutions, maybe better solutions can get found. So that's the interesting thing. It's just like, oh, well, all right, let's rapid fire. My child shouldn't get bullied, and then, you know, online is like, we'll toughen him up. You know, just like we'll fight back. Uh, I just want to speak freely. I've been reading Jack Reacher books, and I come to the perspective that like, no, no, no. There's a line in the sand that even for me, coming from like a Christian perspective, is just, or you know, just growing up as a Christian, because I'm very agnostic, atheist, even. I mean, if somebody had to ask me the question, it would be I don't know. But if it was a yes or no, it'd be no on the atheism. But just, not that I want that to be a hot topic, to be like, ooh, you know, it's like, because even when I was into figuring out my hallucinations, like I was drawn towards like a class in shamanism, you know, doing tarot cards, and then, you know, it's just like, how many other occult words can, like voodoo and, you know, witchcraft. I brought some books on that, and it's, you know, that's where I get back to psychology, because like, for the most part, if what is, you know, and like for the 99% of us, we don't believe in like ghosts that are portrayed in the History Channel. We just think that's fluff, and or maybe, you know, it's like maybe you do. I mean, it's like any topic that you can't prove or like disprove, then it becomes this, well, could you answer a yes or no, and choose. Almost got sidetracked, but it gets back to the interesting idea that I'm more interested in psychology of like, whatever, even if you're a flat earther, you fit into a paradigm of science. Like, if I get to take a step back from the world I see, or come in as an alien and start interviewing people, I would say that these molecular organisms, you know, have a system of communication, knowledge, belief, philosophy, and yeah, just the fact that someone has an idea that's not, you know, rational or true, it still fits into that science paradigm. And for me, that makes more sense. It's like, even if you take Christianity, I mean, and I really love talking, I mean, to people that are really, you know, very Bible-centered, Jesus-centered, and then also, I mean, that's kind of more fun. Like, why, like, that's gonna get, like, the, you know, I just talked to, yeah, this last individual. I mean, it was just fascinating because, like, oh, so how, it was just interesting how he got there. You know, it was like, you know, it was like it was interesting how, just not to give anything away, is like you're swapping one paradigm that you grew up with for like another paradigm that it feels more yours. So it's just kind of that like whatever your parents did, kind of that reverse, idea, and it's like literally mimicked. I mean, it's like, as long as both. But that was the deal. Is like one was creating harm in this person's perspective, and then so there was a shift of like a less harm. And been learning how to kind of debate or listen to people that debate on the topic of atheism, and that was, I mean, well, if one could be like seen as more harmful, then yeah, maybe there is some kinks to work out where it can become less harmful. And then even in this desire to like point out flaws in logic and rationality, like those are the driving forces of like, no. I see a world that's less conflicted, less harm, like but these are things from, if you're an alien, you understand that these molecular organisms aren't rational. So that's like, that's an ideological, political goal of rationalizing the world when human nature in its essence. So when solutions come up, I see solutions as more creative than just ideological, and if you don't fit inside the circle, it's like, well, pick up a book. I see more solutions being more integrated. And in that perspective, then you can't solve everyone's problems, because I still have an ideal of like, well, is there especially an individual issue, like let's say me with mental illness, I definitely would only want a dialogue with someone that would ask permission to help solve my problem. And the listening points that I use to see, my litmus test to see if someone is kind of caring, considerate, actually gives a crap long term, is one that isn't hypocritical. Like saying, it's just like, yeah, dude, I deal with a lot of crap, and nah, I don't want interventions. It's just like, if you're gonna, if like, even something like that, I already have a mode of, and I should with mental illness, because I might land in the hospital, and maybe that's no big deal, but it might be worse, where it's really hard after I am lost sleep, become irrational, I've lost my choices, but I still want to make choices for myself. The outside says no. My biggest concern is that I'll get better, but then the outside already took clutch of those choices. So it's just like that that idea of help can have this aspect of control in any form. Like so that's why one, it's for me, and this is, I'm talking more societal too. It's like, if you talk, a great example, it's like if I was I'm just spacing out, because I think it would be very, very worthwhile for me to actually do some volunteer work with homeless, because I'm like, my tribe is mental illness, but anyone who's homeless, I mean, it's almost 99.9. Yeah. Well, I don't want to label, but the things that help people with mental illness, that support, that knowing we can't solve all problems, those core goals that I hold, even through the organization Anami, but still filtered through me as my own ideals, I feel like I could be a real help and a real friend, and that's one aspect that if I'm having a hard time figuring out how to make food on the table when I don't need to, because I'm already living with my folks and kind of have a dependent relationship to them, it opens up the doors to live how a person with a disability might live. And it's just like, well, you know, volunteer and make it a situation where you both get uplifted from it, and it's not that hard, like type of thing. Talking to my brother even today is just like the chemical high that you get from work that's satisfying, that makes sense, that's paying your bills. There, wow, there's almost no substitute. So when I am like down and out for this winter, and last winter was really tough. So I'm not finding a magic bullet that's going to make this winter any easier. I just know that spring potentially will bring back the working on a property, and that I'm able to, but I'm really having a hard time figuring out what work is going to be satisfying for this winter. And I already know what work I can do. It's just I'm a little bit paralyzed. So I lose all that chemical high from a job well done, or like a day where you pat yourself on the back, or you're working, you're taking care of yourself, and after you've done that, Maslow's hierarchy needs, it's just like you take care of someone else or a family. It's like those. That would also backfire. It's like I have a disability enough that if I was in the situation where I had to take care of a family, there'd be plenty of times where I'd have to step away from that. And it's just kind of interesting having these side relationships along the way where I'm in a state like summertime, springtime, summertime, feeling going that 60 hours a week. It's like can take on a lot. And that's normal for most people. I mean, just even doing a job and coming home to a family. But that's literally superhero from someone who just can't do that. But it also comes with that chemical high that like it's almost like a self-perpetuating, like you have kids that are so valuable that it's like you will take on those sacrifices, where from a person that has a disability that hasn't like attained that like social norm, normal job, normal income, normal use of doing that, it's mentally amazing. Like I find sometimes I feel like a superhero in different ways, but I know they're always kind of short term, and it's really difficult for me. It would almost be impossible for me to fit that long term, even raising kids at 18-year paradigm and longer. But also, I guess I just recognize that's such a chemical high dependency that you're working towards a goal, like making something work. And there's plenty of relationships that families that don't work successfully, and but yeah, there is that, just even talking to my friend, it's just like he's like, yeah, I don't like he's basically, he's got young kids, do anything for them, and it's just interesting and driving force, because I also know that no one's immune to not have any sort of mental illness, or any sort of struggles with your mind, and even when it comes to, substances, like, not abuse, but, just, like, I would use food in a way to release, But yeah, so yeah, it amazes me, but also I'm in a circumstance where just mentally I just have to come to the realization that yeah, there are times where I have to say that I have a handicap, and that's okay, and understand what that is. And I mean, handicap doesn't mean any sort of, you know, limitation from like a goal perspective, like, you know, because everyone's a superhero, and even those that are handicapped, even maybe more so, because things don't come as easy. If they want to fill in those seams with something meaningful and important, you know, obviously it's just as amazing. So it started from, if I went back in time, and as a child that was getting bullied at a very young, like in middle school, if I had a choice for my solution, yeah, there's some very obvious ones that I would choose. Um, One that I mentioned in a previous video is just like I would get bullied. I was a personality, whether it was kind of like I mentioned, like, you know, being Polish and Irish, just like the most potentially screwed over or hated people. There is something psychological that, like, I don't know. It's just like I imagine people just hate the way I sound or something. Uh, like I mean, you get down to that, like, primal level. It's just like, why do I hate this person so much? And there is, and I wouldn't be like, oh, that's just made up, David. Yeah, like if someone hates you, I can see how that's just kind of, but there's like some people, like, oh, it's just made up, but I don't think so. Like, I don't know. Everyone's got that. It's like two humans collide, and you're just like, whoa, our personalities hate each other. Like this is super weird that this don't work out. And yes, personality might be the driving force, and maybe not some of those, you know, your heritage or your race, religion. But we all know that that stuff exists too. So discrimination and but from like where we try to, like, I think most people try to come as people. We yeah, we work towards not judging by race, religion, creed. But we have no inhibitions by judging by character, like, or just being like, I don't know, I think this person hates me, and you know what? I think I hate them. Or you're just like, whoa, this is like, we do not mesh. Like, from the get-go. It's like, there's nothing you could do. Like, just the first word out of your mouth, and it's just first impression. And I think we've all been there, and we can all relate to that. And I want to relate this back to, like, it relates for me from bullying and determinism. I don't see any other like, how are you going to take a developing child that is like myself, already socially challenging, you know, to fit in, and what, you're just going to make them into a superstar, like, overnight, that they can handle those 3 years of middle school? The only, I mean, my solution is, like, get me the hell out of middle school. Like, and I come from that perspective. I mean, from an engineering perspective, from a guess and check, you know, it's just like, what are the limits? Like, what's the number for pi? It's 2. It's 4. It's another. It's 3.14, and it's closer to 3. But yeah, this is cool. Nice little tangent. But yeah, like you take a circle with a diameter of 1. Well, just collapse it so it's just a line with a length of 1, and it's got 2 sides. So that's the perimeter. The perimeter of a circle is about 2. On that, and then take a circle of diameter 1, make it into a square with sides 1, 1, 1, 1. And what's the perimeter of that? 4. I mean, so if you're saying a circle's perimeter is less than 2 or more than 4, now you've come to maybe an illogical. It's like, no, that was a horrible guess. Like, but if quickly you can say, this tree, oh wow, this tree's like, whoa dude, this tree's, well, I'm just gonna imagine a tree. Wow, this tree's like 24 inches, this tree's like 2 feet in diameter. What's the perimeter? Oh, 4 feet. Or 2 times 4. Well, it's either 4 feet or it's 2 times 4, 8. It's 8 feet. Okay? So now the perimeter is either 4 feet. Oh, did I even get that right? No. Yeah, the perimeter was 2. Yeah, 2 times 4 is 8. Yeah, the perimeter is between 4 and 8 feet. Sounds totally reasonable. And that's easier to multiply than 3. So why not use that simplification to guess? Get back to setting your limits. So when it comes to a child being bullied in middle school, if I had the choice, I think my best choice would have been leaving that school. And that happens all the time. That happened to my 2 close friends that were also Christian. I don't think anything of my bullying had to do with Christianity. It just had to do with personality growing up, my own DNA, my own makeup, my own determinism. My social cognition at the time, which obviously, I mean, middle school is a very socially dynamic, stay ahead of the Joneses atmosphere, where you don't have the scattering enough where, it's like if you're not on top of King of the Mountain, then you kind of feel like a peasant until high school. Just in general nature, that's when closer bonds form. But yeah, I was really damaged by middle school, so there's no reason that my solution would have just been take me out of middle school, and there was plenty of other private schools, but there's also homeschool. And, but yeah. And these are just the solutions if I had an opportunity to if I had the opportunity to proposition my parents and, kind of with that adult mindset to be like, yeah, I think this will be the solution long term. Yeah, they probably would have got there. But my parents, just like not understanding mental illness and then kind of teaching them from 10 years, and I just bring this up because, I mean, just from the no fault of anyone's. It's not the fault of the kid getting bullied. It's not the fault of the parents, especially when we potentially live in a society where solutions could be had. But I just know that I do not fit into the paradigm of the fight back mentality. To like, my friend, he was. Even kind of Baptist family, so that's what I didn't understand. It's just like, well, how are, like, my parents are telling me. And then here's one aspect of my, like, growing up, is that I got most gullible in high school. And I said, sweet, which is exactly what you'd expect the most gullible person to say. So from that joke, I trust what people say. If, like, like my parents say this is the way you should live life, then like that's the gold standard. And I think, like, from, you know, a psychology perspective, even for my parents, they have, like, I'm the youngest of 5, and then, you know, they have to put out the spot fires of, you know, my brothers that potentially don't fit that mindset, that are just like, well, yes, we know there's rules and I won't go past them. See, this is the issue that I'll get back to, of like, what's the solution to bullying? Like, fist fight fist, metal fights metal. It just wasn't the solution for me. But I get that people live in like a, well, yeah, these are the rules, and then I'm 10%, 20% out of them, and that's kind of like where I live. And then so you have to set the rules, you know, 20% stricter to actually get to that balance. But I come from a perspective that, you know, even now for mental illness, like if I'm running to the police station naked, or I have the potential to do something that's gonna kind of ruin reputation, or like my, you know, something like that, or even accidentally do something criminal in nature while, you know, I was in a state of mania or hallucination. I come to grips with that. Oh, I'm a rule follower. I mean, just by nature, I mean, it's, like, I don't want to get pulled over by the cops and then have them, you know, see a person that's, like, not mentally there, and it, like, weirds them out. I would walk around town at 3 or 4 in the morning. So if a cop ever did come up to me, oh, there is no, like, why the hell would I use that as an opportunity to, like, use my First Amendment rights? Like, I have no desire for that type of conflict. I do enjoy the videos of people, like, just from the entertainment perspective of, like, I'm gonna go out and to weird and bizarre places with legal, but, you know, like, legal guns on me that don't look legal. You know, it's just like, and then maintain my First Amendment rights. And it's like, more power to you, but also we live in, it's like, that's an ideology. That's like, well, you're living in a future that don't exist, like 16 years, like 100 years, you know. It's just like, I mean, but potentially you're breaking ground for a topic you want to break ground on. I want to break ground from stigma, mental health, mental illness, but I know when I'm faced with that, like, they're not sure of what I am, you know, I'm going to give all the information. Oh, yep, you know, open. Why I'm out at night, sleep, I do have, you know, it's like, I'm going to be frank. It's just like, yeah, I don't want to, if I appear nervous right now, it's because I have mental illness. And, I mean, I do have a feel, there's no reason just to say that directly. But there's also no reason for me to be more suspicious if a cop, you know. The only time the cops actually rode up at like 4 in the morning is like there was actually someone in the neighborhood that they were trying to find that potentially did a criminal act, and they were seeing if I knew where that person was and informing me about that. But I mean, the second a cop rolls up, if I use my First Amendment rights and keep walking, like, you know, I mean, obviously it's just going to be exactly like the videos are currently, you know. Like that's not, it's not my place to reduce any of that stigma. So yeah, from that perspective, even if yeah, it's like, well, oh yeah, the cop's protecting me. It's like, yeah, there's somebody out there, you know. We're just trying to find him. So setting these limits, one of mine could have been, yeah, just homeschool. Even though that probably wasn't an option. But it could have been. Like, guaranteed it could have been had I been educated. had even someone like and it's okay even for a school to be 100% honest that we don't have solutions. Like that's the first level of honesty that I appreciate. Whatever the status quo was last year, whatever the families that had kids that were getting bullied, all those kids are going to get the same amount of bullied this year. To be like, that's the frank honesty, you know. Now, let's find solutions, you know, and get a little better. I mean, it's just, there's no leaps and bounds. And that's where I just thought it was a good place to start. It's just like, wow, I have a perspective being an adult now that has carried a trauma, you know, and understanding, well, how big a deal was that trauma? Like, how big a deal was getting bullied for 3 years, only 3 years in middle school? Like, I saw the tipping point in 4th grade. So that's where even I knew the tipping point is just like, my personality is one that's going to get bullied. I don't know what's going on. Up to 3rd grade, and that's where my 2 friends pieced out at 3rd grade. So then I'm just kind of left in no man's land, because I only had kind of 2 close friends. And then you're like, oh wow, I'm not socially that great at making like another close friend. And then the friends that I did, they a little bit of backstabbing already at the point of like, well, you're not cool, but I'll use you as my friend. You know, and it's like, that's not cool. And then you get, yeah, one of the hardest things to overcome from my perspective were the potential people that were friends, like, hey, let's get together, but then turned out to be like, not your friend. Like, but I definitely like to use the limits. One of that is just understanding of the bully. I just Googled like the reasons why someone gets bullied, and you know, so all those are probably true and honest, and whatever category you fit into. And one of them is, yeah, we live in a social. We don't want our social paradigm to be disrupted. That's where I just feel like I have enough of a voice, content, clarity, confidence that I'm fully okay with doing something like a digital diary, like a, as my brother calls it, oh, you're doing memoirs. Yes, but in my style. Like, this is my style of writing, a see one, do one. And I got my topics, and I also got my filter. Like tonight, I'm going to use no names for people that have bullied me. Like, but you don't need to. It's just like, even on YouTube, I mean, sometimes, like adults will, for whatever reason, like, there's that great political one, or I don't know if it was, like, I don't know, but the 2 adults, like, got back together, and the guy's like, dude, you bullied the crap out of me, and then, like, the guy was still a bully, and it's like, whoa. And I potentially see the same thing. Like, I don't see people as being magical people that just heal, like, guaranteed, if I was surrounded by those people that bullied me, yes, a lot of time went by, but I don't expect the human brain not to revert back to just patterns. But from that aspect, I will share that once high school, I did, the people that bullied me the most were this subgroup of friends that I was just latching onto because I needed to stand next to someone at lunch just for my depression and just making sure I didn't fall off the world. You know, I just needed this illusion that I was part of a group. When this group, I mean, even they would just tease me from the teasing standpoint, and at a certain point, I got to walk away. And I was only able to walk away until I developed another group. I started running cross country. And I credit my family, I credit my dad particular. This is a great story. Like I'm at a very suicidal loss. I already said I didn't know what suicide was. I lived in a generation where suicide really didn't exist from my perspective. But for sure, am suicidal by nature. Fully damaged. This is too challenging. Life is too challenging. And now being so damaged, like just normal things and realizing you have to get through all the social pressures because it's just too much. Cool. I was just thinking about the setup was just is absolutely opening to my mind, because what my dad did really changed the direction of my life. It's like it's always good for me to give credit, because I really do appreciate my dad a lot. Also, he is one that, his children are part of his world. It's just like, I get from the perspective that you can't, it's really difficult to be a parent and be like, yes, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Instead of like constantly guiding and hopefully spot firing and shaping, and then just never turning that off. It's like, I don't know what my perspective, that's a separate topic of like control from a parent standpoint, but it's very therapeutic for me to really brace and give credit to something. Well, that's why the story's so funny, because it's just like, oh, this is total control. I mean, in a funny and hilarious way. So the backstory, going into high school now, like 8th grade is over. That 8th grade, I literally had a meltdown. Like going to the 8th grade party was just like the celebration of going from 8th grade into middle school. And for me, it was absolute death. I might bawl my eyes out. But just, it was that, like, 6th grade, you're a little naive. By 8th grade, you're old enough to realize, like, I mean, if society says you're becoming an adult, then you're old enough to realize how shitty something could be. Just the implications of, like, this is god-awful, and I'm in, like, the worst social, I don't have the skills that other people. I've already got beat to fuck, and just lost all that ground from, innocent 2nd, 3rd grader, and then you get into this world of King of the Mountain. And there's elements that for sure start even in 4th and 5th grade. My class was hard-nosed. I mean, you have economics coming into it. We lived, I do really appreciate that I'm a bridge between, different economic classes, different social structures. I mean, it's probably why my mind is perfect for getting bullied, because I don't understand why I can't be your friend from, so like one of the aspects is, why do people bully? There's a jealousy. It's like my parents already instilled the values, and I hold those, and values, education, but you get to school, and then it's just, well, let's just tear that down. I'm sure that aspect was the biggest, because I had no social standing. Like, these people bullying me, I just imagine, I'm guessing, but not guessing, it's, and then one of the other aspects is, they've gotten bullied themselves. Parents, it's like guaranteed, live rough lives. But to me, that didn't faze me to the point where it's just like, I don't see it. Um, yeah, it's bizarre because like, yes, it was like I recognize. Um, I hope that's true. I was definitely recognizing, kids that weren't going to make it in life. You know what I mean? The chance they're going to, I didn't know about prison and stuff, but you're just like, I don't understand that. So, like, those are just the kids that I gravitated towards, like, hanging out with. But also, there definitely was. It's like there was this openness that, all the cool kids were taking. And so, they're not going to invite you. So then you're just kind of left with the rest. And yeah, anyway, I'm just trying to figure out, that was kind of a side topic. But going from 8th grade into high school, like, my parents were like, why aren't you doing band? You like to play your trumpet and stuff, and you like music, and why aren't you doing that? It's just like, well, I was so effing happy. Don't want to swear too much. I mean, just for emphasis. But it's just so relieving to kind of see, like, oh, that's what was going on. I was so happy. There was some elements of getting into high school that made me happy because it was like definitely a fresh start. Like, there was, my parents, like, I could make some choices, and I did. You also don't develop a backbone real fast if you kind of just do the status quo, like, especially if that's not working. So it's just like, my parents were like, well, are you going to do band in high school? I was like, no, I'm done. Like, my commitment is absolutely done. And yeah, I think in middle school you had to choose. For those 3 years you had to choose. And I just realized by the time my 3rd year, and then even just like, I was like, oh man, I wish I did chorus or something. Just from the skill aspect, using your voice. It's very, I like that. I did enjoy band, but I sat next to 3 of those, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, all of them. Oh my God. 1, 2. The 2 worst. Then the 2 second worst. Kind of like, it was like, I don't know. It's like links in the chain of like mob bosses. And then 1 that was a side piece. So you had like 5 all in the band. Like, look, that was like that. But they were in all my classes. So, but band was the absolute worst because like we were literally sitting. So I mean, I'm sitting for 3 years next to my sharks. There's no need for that. So that's the other element. What can you do? Well, 1, sure, I wish I was homeschooled. Just get me the hell out of that situation. I would trade it all for not having that abuse. Like, that abuse was enough. As an adult, it's just like, what's the solution? Get your kid the hell out of there. You know what I mean? Like, even if there's tons going for them. It's like you don't... Those years of abuse are only 3 years. Like, bring them back in high school, And I can only say bring me back in high school because everyone's got their own solutions. But that would have been mine. That would have been an excellent solution. Plenty of time in life to figure things out socially. Just from you won't learn socially. You know what I mean? It's like, nah. You'll have laws that you won't have to get kicked. Like, literally the fact that, like, an adult can, like, physically abuse younger than 18 in the school. Younger than 18 can abuse younger than 18 at a criminal level is just garbage. And, like, I don't know how to solve that issue from, like, the legalistic standpoint, but I do know that for me, separation, bully, and bullied. That is honestly the tactic that one of my greatest tactics that I used today. There's no reason, like, I've had to leave 2 jobs, but one was long term. Worked at the ski area. I had to leave after 10 years. There's no way I'm going to put up with bullying at an adult level. But I already put up. I put it up with 10 years. But obviously, and we all did. Like, we were all kind of in it together, but we had to put up with it. But, like, that paradigm ain't changing at that ski area because it's already kind of, like, rough. I mean, it has the ability to change, but it don't change overnight. So, like, I'm a big fan of, like, I got fired. Great. Let's, in my life, yeah, that sucks. I go on. I'm not offended that I got fired. I'm offended that I did not. Honestly, it's bullying. I'm just offended that I entered a place of work that I was not being treated equitably, especially for a first job. And yeah, for sure, a discord right off the bat. Nasty boss. I mean, hopefully I never see him again. My only interest is if he became a better leader, you know? But I don't know. I really don't expect... I don't expect people to have, like, monumental changes in their life. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, nasty people can be nasty people from the get-go to the final breath. I mean, we live in a world where, like don't... Yeah, don't think we don't live in that world. You know, whether it's Putin or, you know, it's like we live in a world where nasty people can be nasty people for life, you know? So then, you know, it's just like, from my perspective, like, how do I function? And so I develop a lot of coping skills. One is, like, that's a hallucination. It's just like, I'm never going to see this person ever, but, like, just the fear of seeing them is a tangible enough reality that, you know, it's like, ooh, I'm just making stuff up in my head like I'm actually confronting them. Like, I actually had to, and it's very interesting. It's very interesting how that resolve, that, like, that resolution in our mind to, like, find that peace. And that dream story was one that I found tonight. It wasn't the two majors. It was, you know, like the next link in the chain. That individual, just because it's like, ooh, like, oh, you could have been the one to, like, prevent. It's like, you weren't the primary bully, but, like, you didn't, that's where the story of my dad kind of changing my life for the better, going into high school, because even that first year in high school, I was still hanging out with a group that disliked me, teased me, and yeah, it was way better than the nastiness in middle school, but it was still but honestly, it was psychologically worse. It's just like, nah, you should be my friend, but you aren't, and it's just real backstabbing. Like, I get the other bullyment, like, you know, from that. It's like, I get that dynamic at least. But this is, yeah. But I really did have to share. It's like, wow, I was in band class, and that's the reason why I just, you know, and it scars you. It's like, if I'm going to pick up, you know, music at any sort of caliber, it's like, that's, you know, that's why I kind of mentioned, it's just like middle school is all about that social, like, experimentation, and then, you know, you have dances, just like, nope, I'm getting bullied at a moderate level from anyone, so why would I do an activity that puts you in a more vulnerable state? And an activity where the more vulnerable you feel, like, the worse it's going to look, the worse you're going to feel. Like, dancing and having self-cognition of negativity is just, it's almost a downward spiral, where it's a weird one, because it's an activity that should be kind of the opposite. The more you lose yourself in it, the more it becomes a very amazing life experience. But to use middle school as an outlet it kind of sucks, because that made or break, different social aspects of my life getting more hard and typically not easier. But this was the story of how I broke away from those friends. At some point, I just walked away. At some point, there was a lunch where I just decided, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go there. I mean, yeah, I knew exactly where they were at. They'd always, and I'm just like, and maybe it was even like, maybe I didn't even have a backbone at that point. It took me a lot of years to develop my backbone to be like, nope, I'm standing up for myself, yeah, I even, another side, okay, this is great, because, rafting, very near and dear to me. I've been going to, driving like 2 hours to a town called Missoula, surfing their wave, really dynamic, got good. One of the company owners of running the Lochsa, which is my favorite river, but this is such a bully, like at what a cost. But I'm totally satisfied because maybe I'm not. The company owner, just kind of a jerk. He'd be offended by anyone calling him a jerk, but he straight up comes up to me and says like, hey, do you want to work for me? And it's like, on the Lochsa. I was like, sure, let me think about it for a week and I'll get back to you. A little sick today. But he had a caveat. He's like, want to work for me? He's like, as long as you don't mind getting yelled at. It's like, Jesus, that's a huge red flag. I mean, just at that point, the guy's just a piece of work, from that definition. But I mean, it's just like, he's gonna yell at you? Like, that's emotional issues. I mean, that's garbage. Anyway, week later, and this is the same thing that happened with my first job that I got. I had to choose actually between two jobs. One was like the golden ticket. And the other was like the highway to hell. It's crazy not to be able to see the difference. And it was the same thing. So a week later, very similar. Won't go into the other one, but you'll kind of get the gist. Week later, surfed the same wave, and actually he's there too. And I was like, hey, you know what? I thought about it. And yeah, I'll come work for you on the Lochsa. I mean, this is like freaking February, March. I mean, it's like we're early season surfing. And he's like, oh man, dude, I think you're totally late. It's like, you should have like called me. Like, I think that offer's off the table. I was like, okay, so do you want me to, like, I don't mind if I'm the backup. It's just like, I'm already finding solutions, that he can't even comprehend. And I was just like, well, do you want me to join you on the Lochsa? And he's like, we finally came to the conclusion. It was one of those backhanded, it's just like, no, dude, too late, but yeah, you can come. It's just like, all right, screw you, buddy. But, and then I bit, like, it's interesting how you just don't see those red flags, and you think getting out of one situation means that there's not going to be another bully situation. No, there's plenty of them. And as an adult, you don't have to, you're not getting physically bullied, but, I mean, you're just taking abuse, and if you're not learning how to stand up for yourself, then yeah, that's the one difference between middle school. It's, sure, there might be ways to stand up for yourself. But determinism shows these kids are already pre-programmed to they're not, I mean, they're like the Lord of the Flies. I mean, you can't expect another kid to, the light bulb to go, oh yeah, like what was I thinking? So that's where, alright, just skipping ahead. I worked for that company. There was a lot of aspects that were great. I got to run a harder river at a commercial level. We only ran a few trips that year, and so mentally I could do it. It wasn't a group where I could. I would even share. It's just like, yeah, my mental health isn't that great, guys. So You know, I could only handle a couple trips a day, blah, 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 or a week. But yeah, there was only like one trip a week, and yeah, I was pushing my limits. Now, it wasn't the group that's going to hold your hand and stuff, but all that got me was just, you know, a boss that loses temper, you know, did what he was going to say. He's like, I'm going to yell at you, and just a hot cannon, you know, and it's just like, well, from my perspective, I get bullied, so I don't stand up for myself. It's just recipe for disaster. And there was just that, the day that I was just ready to actually confront that and step up to a different, you know, step of confidence, to be like, I'm going to quit. This day was too much. There was no empathy. There was just a, you just have someone's personality, like, just over the top that, you know, I mean, is exactly what he said. I mean, he was an honest person. You want to work for him? You're getting fucking yelled at. You know what I mean? It's just like, you wanna put yourself in a shitty position. You wanna, like, you know, it's like you wanna purposely put yourself in a hell. Go for it. So that's the amazing thing, that someone can be so frank and be like, yeah, I'm this way. Like, yeah, the human condition is not one that stands up for itself. It is literally, well, the blackjack creature is literally frogs in a lukewarm pot of water, now turned on, now getting boiled. It's like, I don't know when to jump out, and it is an awful scenario where, from the outside perspective, yeah, you talk to anyone from hey, let me relay the situation that's going on. And it's just like, the outside perspective, your outside friends are just like, dude, you need to, like the bullets have been flying, just dodge the rest of them. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're already hit, like, multiple times. Like, just dodge the bullets that are coming next. But yeah, frogs in boiling water, and I didn't. Like, that day was one where I actually had to use biology to turn myself off from that job. And I might share that full story at some other date. I don't mind. But I was gonna say, I'm done. But it got to the point where this boss, this bully, you know, just at the end of the day of just shit going awry, you know, it's like that mob boss that packs you on the back of the shoulder. It's just like, you know, there is that need from that person's perspective to have cohesiveness. Obviously, you can't have everyone just hating him. And it was just enough for me to be like, I couldn't get the words out to be like, I am done. I didn't understand. No one taught me that, you know, making a judgment is taking, you know, both sides of an equation, both sides of the, you know, weighing them, scaling them out, and, I mean, even that's a political concept. You come to a majority and you stick by that concept. You know, it's not just this wishy-washy, you know, it's just like, well, I hope things will get better, and they don't. And then, so what happened there was I didn't quit, but then I just got physically sick. And that next week I just had to say, I can't work. No, I did. I actually went to work one more week, and I just was sick. I was just, you know, sick to the stomach, getting a cold. You know, none of it made sense. And my mental health was deteriorating because of the whole situation. And then it was after that that I was sick for 2 weeks, and I was like, I can't do anymore. And, you know, and it was just this separation where, like, he didn't call me to work anymore, and I said I was sick. So it was at least a subtle recognition, and maybe that's success. You know what I mean? It's just like we can't win. We can't be confident to win all battles. And there might be times where you don't want to win that battle in that environment. It might be too emotionally damaging for you to, you know, to stand up for yourself. I don't know if that even makes sense. I mean, from that perspective, I just wish I did, because that would have been a great foundation. Because it took me a couple more life circumstances. It actually relationships and mental illness. Just because mental illness is such a stigmatized topic, no one wants to hear with it. No one wants to live with it. It's very yeah. I mean, and yeah. I mean, relationships are hard. It's just like that's. I mean, of all the things that you could have, I mean, you could be an alcoholic, but that's nothing compared to having mental illness and taking care of yourself from like a more handicapped perspective, even though like your character, your personality is still real great compared to maybe like alcoholism, where your character, your personality is like total garbage, you know, when you're on those substances. And then even when I'm needing help with mental health, it's just not gonna get someone to the top. You know, it's like, well, but yeah, even in relationships, it's like we live in a world where you get to choose what you want and what you don't want. So, you know, my best relationship is like, hey, I got to take care of my life from this outside perspective, and I don't want to rub it off from a financial or an emotional perspective, and I'm okay being a loner, you know. So I'm okay with yeah. I mean that's a tough ask. Most relationships are kind of all or nothing, and then so I don't mind gravitating 3 months, 4 months at a time for relationships like that, either. So I did not quit, you know, use that confidence to quit that rafting job. I'm very satisfied. I at least am satisfied with running the lockstock, getting all those skills. There was a lot of positives, and I learned another time of like seeing those red flags to be like, nope, like, yeah. Yeah, I want to get personal. I mean, just a little bit, you know, and then just always that bully mentality. It's like anytime he saw me, it was just always, you know, even after I quit working, if I was, he'd be like, "Why are you all sweaty?" It's like at the put-ins, because like I'm a responsible, you know, expletive boater. It's just like, even on one of his trips, you know, everyone. Another good story, I guess. It's sunny, but it's spring. It's like April, but it's a really nice day. And you're doing on class 3. You're taking guys that run the class 4 lockside, and now you're putting them down to class 3, 3+. But those rivers flip boats. It's like there's waves in there that do flip boats. People get cold. No one's going to die, but they're going to get really cold. So I take a big bag of stuff. I'm getting chastised. Hopefully I think I'm using that word. But anyway, I don't like to use words that I actually don't know the actual definition to, just because, and then if I catch myself, maybe I'll go look up and then get more vocab oriented. Just kind of stick with 4 or 5 letter words. For this story, more 4-letter words. Yeah, the whole shebang. It's just like, that's where it's just like, you know, when you realize you're in a nightmare, when just like, you know, people are a product of alcohol, drugs. This kind of company kind of just, and I do have to say, nothing wrong with 2 individuals, or 3 even. I mean, it's just like, it doesn't take, it's just from a bully perspective. I only got beef from 2 people. Those are the only ones. Like everyone else's. You know, maybe I didn't fit in, but I wasn't getting bullied. I was actually getting appreciated, but just those 2, boss and trip lead, you know, especially that day, just bully mentality. And if you don't talk about it, it ain't going to change. And it's not going to change anyway, but you can get more confident, seeing it, tackling it, taking charge, pulling that ultimatum. It's just like, you know what, I'm done with this company, you or me. I mean, just every time you're ready to quit, you know, just be like, well, I'd actually stick around. Like ultimatum. It's just like, you know, it's like I'm a better mission statement than this person. You choose, else I'm out. Yeah. So I was getting ragged because I was carrying extra stuff to put in. When that boat flipped, wasn't that trip lead, it was just taking care of the group. When a boat flipped, we had to regroup. People that go on a class 3, not expecting to get flip, feel like they're all cold as ice now, and that was a traumatic experience. So I saved the day, fleece, warmth, yeah. But just chisel, just a little bit of chisel. That trip leader was impressed. And I've seen him before, and yeah, it's just like, oh, I know you. Like, you know, it's like the best friend. But from my perspective, I come from getting abused, so I have to separate myself from, yeah, that dichotomy of bullies being nice one moment and then nasty another. Because that person, there's only a couple incidences, but this is such a good topic on bullying. Because finally, in the comments of RAF sections, the idea of like you messing up on your trip, like you dumping a passenger out, you have to pay a price. You have to like fill the company's cooler full of beer, you know, or buy everyone beer at the end. And that one maybe has a shred of making sense. You got brand new guys. It's like, hey, yeah, you don't want to, you know, buy beer. Don't mess up. We're trying to run a tighter ship. There might be a good thing. But then there's this aspect of like, these are all, you know, high-end river runners running class 4 plus rivers and kayaking potentially. But they use the mindset. I mean, and other companies use this too. You mess up, you fall out. You have someone else fall out, like you lose your paddle. That's what happened. I lost my paddle, and then someone else picks it up. You have to drink beer out of your shoe, like literally it's like unsanitary. Hopefully we're post-COVID where no one's doing that shit, but all the kayakers do. It's like a ceremonial thing. Yeah, I don't understand it from the aspect that if I don't want to do it, I'm bullied. So this was the scenario. It's just like, well, he's just like, well, you're gonna piss off the river gods, and what's gonna happen tomorrow? So he's basically threatening. There's only about 2 times that I was by bullies. I can say, yes, one was definitely just directly threatened for my life, but it's like even that is so not okay to use superstition to bully someone into being like, well, I don't know if you're going to live tomorrow, you know, or what's going to happen tomorrow if you don't do this, like, superstitious ceremony today that's also, you know, done by senior guys hazing younger guys. It's such an obvious, like, I was the last year in cross country where the seniors, as captains, would give the freshmen swirlies where you'd stick their head in the toilet. So cross country running is a sport where it's eccentric. We do a lot of goofy things, and we have a lot of fun, and we unite, and we do a lot of camaraderie. So like that aspect is amazing, but we also use the very typical, and you know, even if you're on the football team, there probably was some sort of haze, and there probably is today. But that's the one that we used, and we were all told, no big deal. It's is something that you might not want to do, but if you do want to do, it'll actually go a lot easier. Like if you're excited to do it, we're gonna pick you up, hoist you. You know, it's like that's pretty cool, right? But we're gonna dunk your head into the toilet and you go hit the shower. You know, simple as that. And and then so I was the last year because and it was interesting because even I was fine with it. I did the whole passive and be like, yeah, this is an interesting thing, and I guess everyone's done it, so there's no reason to put up a fight. But then I did see my other friends put up a fight, and then you see the hazing. It's like, no, 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 you're not going to do that to me, and I'm going to fight to the death that does not happen. And so when I was a captain senior year, I don't know. I would like to think that we stopped doing that. But yeah, all of us, we had no aggression in us to like do it from a malicious. Like the one friend that was just like, I mean, you get for sure accosted, and yeah, you're crossing lines when you're doing that. I'll have to ask my friend. He'll probably say no, no, no. We swirlied them all, and you know, just from that, he's like no, no, just from that historical preservation. Like I think he would say it's like no, we did it, but I honestly have to question. I don't know if we did. I don't know if the coaches said no, we're not doing that anymore because they kind of overheard. But even from me being, I didn't see the point in it, and I'm not a very aggressive. I mean, because if somebody don't want to do it, so from my perspective, I think I just imagine hey, people, we've done this in the past. If it's something you want to do, we can pick you up, dump your head in the toilet just to get your hair wet, and then you can run in the shower. I mean, it's like kind of like Christian baptism, you know. But yeah, I'll have to. But I know those practices stop. But there's a huge difference between, do you want to do this? Do you want to do a ritual that is not going to affect the way people view you? No one's going to think you less of a person, but it's a uniting thing. But obviously if you don't have to. So that was just this. It's just like, I'm not going to drink a beer out of a shoe. Obviously I don't drink beer. And in that year I did. I was like, well, that year I drank juice out of a booty, and I used a magic trick. This was perfect, because I actually didn't wear booties, I just wore shoes, and so like, how are you going to drink it? I guess you just drink it out of your shoe too. You just pour it in and drink it real fast. I don't drink beer, but I didn't drink juice at the time. So then I did this magic trick where you take I had brand new booties, so I would take a brand new booty, and they're neoprene, it's watertight, right? And then so I would, I actually just went to the shelf and just grabbed like a customer booty. Like, oh, those things are probably god-awful. But I would stick my brand new booty into the customer booty, and it would just kind of just stick out over the lip, like you couldn't tell. And then I'd be like, okay guys, I'm ready. And then I would fill the whole thing with the juice, and then I would, you know, just drink it down. But I'm basically drinking just fresh juice out of because neoprene is totally watertight, just out of a fresh, brand new booty. And then, and it took them a while. It took them like, cause yeah, you have a lot of spills on that river. And I guess other people are drinking, but seniors, nah, they'd be like, nah, I'm not drinking one today. But you know, fresh fish, anytime something goes wrong, for sure. And that's where it's like the unfairness came in. It's like, nah. It's like king of the mountain, and then it's bullying. And then so that's where it's just like, oh no, we know that you're cheating. It's like, do it right. And it just got to the point, it's just like, I'm done. And I lost my guide stick going over a rapid called Car Crash. Anytime you go over just like a steep, like just a one and done drop, the back of the boat gets launched. I got launched, had to drop my paddle, I'm always one to like, hey, I got a spare, like get rid of that paddle so I can actually take care of my boat, you know, with 2 hands, rescue quick, you know, do that type of thing. But anyway, I was able to grab one of my customers' paddles and then go after my paddle. I saw it. But then that piece of work, he saw the paddle first, and he was a little closer, and he paddled like mad. He was like, let's get that thing. And then I tried, like, I was like, my crew was like, oh my God, I just want this situation to go away. We paddled like mad. Did not get to my paddle first. He grabbed it and then handed it over. He's like, someone's drinking a booty beer. Just malicious though, because that was it. That was the one that I did not drink, because he's like, you're drinking it correct too. None of this trickery. And I'm not doing it. It's like, and then that's where he's like, well, it's like, what about the river gods? What about, you know, what's going to happen tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like, what's going to happen to you tomorrow when you're rafting down the river? And it's that level of superstition. I mean, if I also like to talk about psychology, philosophy, religion, what decisions, choices, beliefs people make, is like, that's one that's pretty darn nasty. Like, pretty, I'll have to look up the definition of vindictive too, but yeah, using a superstition as a persuasive technique, that's where it's like, well, you're going to hell, you know, to support, oh, a loving God, you know what I mean? Well, he's not loving, but it's like, you know, from potential, could be loving. Anyway, so very good story of bullying. Finally walked away from that, not on my own terms. I did not quit, but at some point, after walking away, I had the realization to maybe look for those red flags sooner, quicker. But yeah, in high school, I think it was, freshman year, still hanging out with those middle school, not the sharks, but just the friends that I thought were halfway friends, and they weren't. And yeah, this happened. I just don't know if it was the full-on catalyst. But we would meet for lunch, and like I said, I just needed someone to stand next to, just for that 30 minutes, and then go back to my class, go home, do my world. But there's certain times in middle school where you just don't want to be caught with no friends or no one to stand next to. That level of isolation seems too much for that young mind to handle. But I just remember like one day like going to where they should have been, and they weren't, and they were kind of nowhere to be found. And it was this realization of like, like for sure, purposeful exclusion. I mean, it don't take a rocket scientist to know that it doesn't take much for a kid's mind to be like, I'm done. I'm done with life, and it does happen. So just from the idea of understanding that it can be a one event. A one event can end a child's life from suicide. And these culmination of events, even though they're just nagging and gritty, they can even add up for a lifetime of trauma. But it was, I think at some point, I had to walk away from that group. And obviously, the group walked away from me, and it potentially was that. It made that choice for me. Something external made the choice for me. And I also appreciate that. One of a spiritual piece that I kind of just cling to is like, well, yes, I understand the science of why you got a flat tire. But we definitely live, and I understand kind of the idea of determinism from that perspective. From, you know, it's just like, well, obviously all things are gonna happen and stuff. But I also understand that, man, it only takes, even just like a computer with ones and zeros, you throw them at the page and you get something that's, it's more complicated. And, oh, woo-woo time. Just interested in the idea of an external element really helping change your perspective. Even if you have some sort of say in it, like obviously if you're dealing with another person, they would be like, oh yes, I am definitely, you know, working towards hoping and, you know, praying or in your life to hopefully make sure that your life goals that you want to see are happening and realizing, and you're a better person, and, you know, all those positive things. But also, it's like even the plant that you're taking care of is providing the oxygen that you breathe. So there is this. I do not live in a world where it's just humans and inert matter. That is just not a world I live in. And I mean, if you live in a world of humans and inert matter, then I mean, kind of as like this extreme type of paradigm, I would definitely just point to humans as being broken AI machines. I mean, like, you could build a better human. You could program in programming, like even the programming of my mind right now, like, I'm an introvert. One thing that I don't want my friends to feel uncomfortable with, especially, and I don't mind having stigma and coming off as a jerk if it sounds like that, to just make sure. I mean, one of the aspects, it might sound rude, but it's just like, I choose not to have peers that are of like peers that I would, you know, it's just like, ooh, it's like like having cool friends. Like I've gone down the river with cool friends, and they don't invite me to dinner parties anyway because maybe I messed up on a mental health, you know, and it's just like, and I'm not going to invite them, but blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be frank. Let's do it. The stigma of mental illness prevents that group from just inviting me because maybe they saw me at my worst for one instance. And then when I interact with them, yeah, they want to know that I'm okay, but it's just like, and if they watch this, I'll just go on record. Yes, I would like to be invited. But also from the caveat that 90% of the time I'm not going to go anyway because I can't get my schedule around going. But actually 50% of the time or more I would go because I really do like social dinner parties. And I don't have to be the life of the party, but I'm so introverted that every once in a while I really do like social engagement. Like, it's fiery for me. It is fire. But I'll come off too strong sometimes too. I'm definitely going to talk. You know, people are like, oh, what are you up to? Well, I live with my folks. I have mental illness, but I'm doing cool stuff. If you want to talk about cool stuff, mental illness, sure. I'm not going to, like, throw it in your face, but I'm going to use every opportunity to, I don't know, too much maybe. So yeah, I can dial back my filter too. But I do not strive for friends like that. I'm 39. When you're 20 to 40, and maybe even your entire life, it's like, yeah, desire to have friends of your equal status. Like, friends that, yeah, cool friends. Like, and that's cool. You know, you maybe have more exciting times. Like, I only want to make sure my mental health is good, and go boating. So yeah. I don't mind if this group of friends is friends once a year when they decide to go boating, which they kind of only go once a year, and they invite me. Perfect. End of being frank and honest. But yeah. But if they did invite me, I'm totally okay with them inviting me as their token friend with mental illness. Inviting me as the person that probably needs a friend. Everyone fits into that category of a different group. no matter where you fall in the echelon of social structure, there's always a group that could invite you into that group as like an olive branch, as a, hey, we actually have something cool. We're so cool, like we do dance parties, you know, it's just like we know how to have a good time. And this group is, I mean, I don't think I have anything negative to say. They are tip-top people. Well, I guess, but they fit into a paradigm of making sure that group is cool, too. I mean, there is no need to bring something into that group that's, you know, toxic. I don't know. I mean, like you could just say, like, why would you bring a person that's just really negative into that group? But I don't want to classify people's, you know, whether their mental state, their economic status, like even homelessness, or, you know, into that category of like, well, that's, you know, that's unpleasant, and that's why we're not going to do that. But that is that's human nature is too. And that's why I'm frank when it comes to, like, I really, goal-wise, I don't need friends anyway, from that perspective. I have a camera to talk into. I'm by nature introverted enough to a point where all the extroverts, they wouldn't understand anyway. They're like, wait, you don't need, like, I don't, like, yeah, I don't need interaction with a broken robot, to feel like I am fulfilled in any sort of way. Like, I'm introverted enough that I enjoy, solo experience enough that, and I can talk more about that. Like, I get that this social sharing can be important, but it also can be the detriment. It's just like, the more you spend with someone, the more blah it gets, and the more it's like, dude, maybe you should take a break for a while, you know, when it comes to literally every relationship. So yeah, be awesome if that group invited me more. So here's the idea is, like, I tell also I'm gonna have to be honest with the friends that are part of the group of, like, that also have mental illness. It's like, I want to be friends with you because of that reason. Like, I want to be honest enough to be like, I am your friend because I know that you enjoy having more friends, and you only need, and for whatever reason, I'm not friends with everyone. So why am I not friends with everyone that fits kind of that paradigm of mental health that potentially could need more friends? Because I'm also honest enough to be like, yes, but it still has to be a give and take. Every friendship needs a, just because I heard plenty of stories of relationships from that perspective coming together, one's helping more than the other, and then, I mean, my last relationship was that. It's just like, it's just one-sided. It's just like, okay, I get it. Like, I'm just helping out a ton because someone's in a life pickle. But there were ways that were equalizing. That relationship was equalizing until actually something else came up that it's just like, oh, we're not friends anymore. And it wasn't anything due to the structure. It was just that innate buildup. Like, when you're friends with someone, you get a high. You're like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm fulfilled and you're fulfilled. It's like true friends would be like, dude, I'll help you move, because, yeah, it's like, it's so entertaining just kind of like getting the opportunity to hang out with someone. Like, that's an awesome friend. Like, that's when you know you got a really good friend. And so that also, I'm very frank and honest, and one of the friends was just like, you know, was just, oh, can you come over tomorrow and do this? And it was a stretch. It was like a friend, part of mental health that, you know, gets to person that lives on his own. And I went over for a movie. But then there was this attachment. I mean, you're also dealing with people that have the same social, failures that I've had to overcome and stuff, and everyone's at a different point socially. But the idea was like, well, can you come over tomorrow? And I was like, no, this was great. I can come over in about 2 months. You know what I mean? Like, I was just being very honest, but I was too honest because that person did not understand that, and it just became it's just like, I mean, yeah, you get that same as like, oh, you're breaking up with me. So you're just like, any friendship has that idea of like, oh, even if it's just friends or not, of just that gaining something, but potentially just losing something. But I just have to be honest, even where the more honest I am, it's just like, yeah, I really do enjoy doing this activity, getting together, and then let's do it, once one of the friends lives in a different town, and 4 times a year, every 3 months, or every 4 months, sometimes just 3 times a year, I'll pick him up, we'll drive back to my town, so it's like a 2-hour drive, one way, and then, 2 hour, and then we'll go to a movie, lunch, stuff like that, and, yeah, it's a staycation for me, and it's a staycation for him. We both come to the same perspective with mental health, and, yeah, it's a good friendship. So actually I only have like 2 of these types, but but I still will say I'm friends. Oh, nice. I don't have to dance around this at all anymore. I'm friends with these 2 individuals because I recognize that they're in need of a friend like me. So it's not negative at all. If someone came up to me, like that group, and it's like, yeah, we're going to invite you because we recognize that you're in need of a friend like us. I've been like, dude, let's do it as much as you want to do it on your terms, under your rules, and I will, yeah, it's like, I know my place, you know what I mean, but I appreciate that. But I've also, have found a way to be like, no, this has to be an uplifting thing for me too. And so I've found those elements that really make it a rich friendship. That it's definitely not just, I'm someone's friend because, yeah, so the one where I got invited to a movie and I was like, yeah, I do this every 2 months. Because even the one that's out of town, he's like, well, what if I just moved to Helena? Would we hang out more? And I was like, nope. I was like, we talk about that a lot. It's like, yeah, you have all your close friends that you hang out on a daily basis. And what's the consensus? It's like, yeah, they're all not that great. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a relationship. It's just like a spouse. It's like, a daily friend is an awful friend. Unless you're really pushing cool stuff and like setting a high standard of like, no, like we got life figured out. Else it's like, let me share your problems and I'll share you mine. And so like we for sure even rationalize to be like, no, we really enjoy a staycation every 3 or 4 months. Very exciting. Might as well not ruin that. And I said, it's like, yeah, I just have to be honest, I'm introverted enough that if that person lived in Helena, I'd want to hang out about the same amount. And maybe it could increase a little bit, but I'm still very cognizant about making sure that both sides are getting the equal amount out of it. Like, yeah, I'm super satisfied with this. But what I will speak frankly on, from the get-go of having mental illness, like, it's just so interesting. It's chiseled away a lot of bad patterns out of me that, you know, I mean, I got bullied a lot, but I could be also the bully. So, I mean, I could also be a naive, maybe racist, sexist person, where it's just like, even though speaking honestly, it's like, yeah, sometimes society wants you to overcome those quickly, or or labels you harshly. But I know with mental illness, that was a transition in my life where I was like, "Ooh, I don't see the point anymore of like treating someone poorly." Um, yeah, yeah. I still have a little bit of stigma with myself. I mean, if you're bringing up the topic of stigma, everyone has it. Even if you're thinking you're overcoming it, you still have it. Um, I even pointed out to this person that wanted to do the movie, and it blew up. It never recovered. So there was this idea that even a 2 month wait was too much. It's like, nah, I'll just be on my way. And it's like, all right, sounds good. Um, Oh, so I came up with a scenario. It's just like, well, if you talk to this person, it's like, well, yeah, I'd be the cool friend for you to have. Great, you got a cool friend. It's just like you got someone maybe outside the norm, that's interested in having friends with, um, you. I don't know if he sees it, but I'm using the common ground of people that have a disability with mental illness. I have a common ground with them, so I see them as equals on that playing field. Um, yeah, let's see if we can have an enjoyable time as friends, and we'll come to that. But I was like, you could do the same thing if you want to have someone come into your apartment. The Section 8. You got disability, and come into your apartment and watch a movie. It's like go down to the homeless shelter here in town. It's called God's Love. But yeah, go down to God's Love and just ask anyone if they want to come over for a movie. You probably have a whole party, like every night. Plenty of social interaction. Are you going to do that? Why not? You know what I mean? The answer is no, but then the question is why not? Why not just find one person, in a social echelon that you could reach out an olive branch to? Um, yeah. But yeah, we live in a social dominated society of King of the Mountain, and that keeps, I mean, I'm I'm also single because I have high standards. I mean, I just don't want to, like, you know, I do use that reaching the olive branch out if I, see that mutual connection with mental illness, but also I also see potentially two people with mental illness being not a good match, because now your life's twice as hard. Even though there's maybe this understanding, potentially might not make sense. So yeah, well, I'll speak frankly, because especially mental illness is one of those. It's like it's a handicap, and it can be just as challenging. I mean, it can be as it can be a death sentence like cancer, where even developmental disabilities aren't treated that way. They're not. They're treated as a celebration of life. I mean, the strides that some of the cognitive developmental like autism or Down syndrome, is they are not considered illnesses, not considered Um, yeah, it's more of just a way of being, but in that aspect, the stigmas that that community, I'm always looking at what community is more on top of reducing social stigma, and that community is doing excellent, and there's a lot that mental illness could learn from that community, as well as LGBTQ community. But from the aspect of, I mean, what I want to see is not a commercial of two people with Down syndrome like getting married, or having dating on the spectrum, which you could have the same thing for like mania on the spectrum, mental, like bipolar on the spectrum, like dating on the spectrum for mental illness. It would actually be a cool opportunity, you know, for people like me to actually, to have those more opportunities that just aren't going to come around otherwise. But we still live in a society where it's just like, no. I want to see a commercial with someone that looks fucking normal, married to someone that has Down syndrome, and not be this creepy ass thing of like, you're just taking control. I mean, because I potentially fit that norm, that I fall into that category of person that has broken social stigmas, that understands like compassion and kind of nature, where just my perspective. I guess I'm just speaking frankly, and it might hopefully it's not inappropriate, but it's like families with, even my family with mental illness is, there is this comfort, and I see it in other families, and then also with like the idea of like Down syndrome, it would be you have a family that's maybe, you have somebody kind of taking care of someone to be their mediator, and it's just like, how are they going to you're asking maybe someone who's incapable of breaking social norms to break those social norms. But I don't know. That's a separate topic. But I mean, hey, I would fit. I see myself as I mean, all the people that I've dated is just like divorced, like broken people dating broken people, or from that divorce perspective, or like it's like you go on to, if I'm going onto a dating site, it's like, well, it must be something wrong with me, and there must be something wrong with you if we're both 40. But then also, to take it to a perspective of non-broken people, of like solutions, like, oh, I see this puzzle piece fitting that puzzle piece, this whole unbroken puzzle piece fitting another unbroken puzzle piece. That's why I strive so hard potentially to still, find solutions with mental illness that are drug-free, because it is that, hey, I'm not an illness. I'm a person with a mind, and I'm finding ways to work through this life with the mind that I'm given. So I walked away from that group, that last group, 6th grade. Obviously, like I said, they probably ditched me at a lunch, and I had this realization. Okay, back to my dad, kind of the funny part of this story. So I was going to do like football. Like, I didn't do the band. I was like, hell no. But I was just like, well, I might do football. That would have been totally toxic. I actually had a good last season. I was a little bit bigger. I was still small, and then still just a little bit weak-minded for that whole sport of football, of just trashing yourself. And there's no way I would have got picked on more. That whole football team is just a large crew. So my dad called up the cross-country team. All my brothers ran cross-country, but for whatever reason, I didn't want to run, and I tried it in middle school. I didn't like it. I was depressed. I was already overeating food, and had still baby fat and just a lot of depressive weight, just trying to survive. My dad calls the cross country team and calls the captain, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "My son really wants to run cross country. Actually, I want you to actually convince him that he wants to run cross country. So can you call my son and tell him, hey, you should really come out and run this summer with us, and then join the cross country team, because it's kind of the start of the summer. You run all summer with a crew. As an 8th grader, you're going to run all summer with freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. You know, becoming seniors. So you have a 4-year, group of people." And then so this captain's like, "Sure. When do you want me to call him?" He's like, "Well, right now. I'm going to hang up the phone, and then you're going to call, and then it's going to ring, and then we'll go from there." And then so he hung up the phone. The captain dials the number, calls, the phone rings. Who picks it up? But my dad, just instantly. He's like, "Hello?" And then the captain's like, Yeah. You told me to call. Like, what? I thought your son was going to pick up." He's like, "Oh, no. I'll just pretend that you asked for my son, and now we'll go get him." So it was 3 years later. I think I was like it was just 2 years later. He was a senior, because this captain was a sophomore. He was just a really talented runner. And so it wasn't until his senior year that he told me the story. He's like, "Oh yeah, this is hilarious. Your dad calls me, but then I call him, and then he picks up his phone and he's like, 'Hello?' And I was like, your son, right?" And he's, "Oh yeah. So he's like, 'Well, let me go get him.' And then so my dad's like, 'Hey, you have a phone call,' and I do remember this, like, 'Hey, you have a phone call. Here, come take it.' And then I get on and I was like, 'Hello?' You know, antisocial 8th grader, a little overweight, and is the captain. And he was like, 'Hey, yeah, we run cross country, and we wanted to know if you wanted to come out and join us. And we meet in the mornings.' It was pretty cool. You meet at 7 in the morning, run, and I mean, most everyone's in high school at a young age. No one's got real jobs anyway. But we met in the morning, ran, and I did. I joined. And there was actually a lot of freshmen. I mean, there was 3 of us. And we became the 3 captains senior year, and both those 2 people, you know, became my best friend all through. Both were from 2 different separate groups. You know, I was friends with one independently, and then friends with the others. But that was it. It was running cross country. It was having this group that was the opposite of Lord of the Flies. You had an echelon of seniority that's like, no, we already know, like, how something should be, you know, I mean, and it was just a good group, you know, it's like, so it's always nice to have people older than you setting a higher standard, instead of the classic Lord of the Flies, all the same age, cutthroat, last one standing. Ran all summer with at least those 2, and you know, you're quiet as excellent sport. You can just be as quiet as you want while you ran, and then just kind of listened in and kind of joined the camaraderie that was all senior down. You know, kind of them running the show. But it was it was just kind of an ease into it. But when it came to friends freshman year, that year, like I only saw them at the end of school, and then you ran with the cross country team, so that's when I kind of knew that group. Even those 2 freshmen, did not become friends with them until maybe later that freshman year. But there was this transition where I at least had that base of like, no, I have something good going, and I have the ability to step away from something bad. So I guess that's the take-home message there. It was this, I needed to have something else that was good to stand up for myself from something that was toxic. And it kind of just blows my mind now, but that makes total sense because it took a while. But there was a transition where I guess I just walked away from the last moments of being bullied. and then that's it. That's probably the different forms of adult bullying, blah blah blah. But that group of cross country runners for 4 years from that point, or 3.5 years from that point, was what I grew as an adventurous person, as a it's still really difficult to start the growth process back from a social perspective. But I'd have a few relationships even then, from that moment on, so that was good, dating wise. But the damage was already done from middle school, those 3 years just being the absolute trauma of my life. There's no escaping it. There's only building from there. There's only restoring something that was broken. And some things, like dancing, I guess, they'll just probably never be restored. But I do find those times where it's just like, yeah, I do enjoy mania and finding that time where I'm able to do that activity and just like what a normal person would experience, and also if I'm a little bit manic, probably to a higher resonance. And I don't think even the good friends that I had on cross country team and that I created through, and I even branched out with through the sport of mountain biking, and even from my cross-country friends, even brought over the other school across town with that crew of mountain bikers, and we all became a close-knit group. So I just really felt good about kind of being a bridge between groups, and always just knowing that, hey, I'm the third wheel. If I'm ever one-on-one with any of you, I don't like that at all. But really enjoying that group as a social structure as a whole. Out of that group, there was only those two captains. Those were really my two closest friends that I felt comfortable enough hanging out with. And it's still from a damaged perspective. I was just like, I'm a damaged person for sure, but I do enjoy the hanging out, because you just know that it's restoring that. So when I see others that have, they don't have those good friends from that, just from determinism, you just, I see the role that I can play. And it's not that I'm playing any different role. We're still friends, and then just coming to that balance of, like, make sure we're both getting what we want, from a friendship. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Yeah, that was the story of my dad calling the cross-country captain, and the captain, like, okay, and then calling back is like, hello? Oh, okay, where's your son? That was kind of funny. And so he told me that. He thought that was kind of an interesting, he was like, yeah, your dad kind of set you up. And I was like, that's fine. At that point, I was already like, oh, that's hilarious, because I'm so glad. And you just learn more. You get your I wasn't able to quit that rafting job, but like when he told me that story, I could realize that, yeah, dude, that football team, Jesus, like how, it's like a pack of dogs. Like, there's no way I would have understood, because even in middle school, I was getting bullied by every single group. It was just that 6 sharks, like almost gang members. They were real into kind of a gang mentality. I mean, they would actually practice. At one point, they were like, hey, we're Gang David now, and then you're going to get jumped. And then so, like, that was the scenario for, like, literally a month. And, like, even that was a success, because it was the frog not getting boiled. It was the idea, it was like that frog waking up and being like, dude, you need to jump the hell out. Because I just remember around that time, I was like, damn, this is not cool. where I had to really find the corners of the playground. I mean, it's middle school. It's not really a playground. It's just like a prison field. But pogs were a thing, so I would go over to different groups, and I was just shocked because I would even go to I had pogs, and I was into anything that was like trickery. You know, it's like and at that point I was already a 7th or 8th grader, and then so at lunch there was 6th and 7th graders on the same field. I was just getting murdered mentally by 6 people just day in, day out. And then once they started really, I gotta say, they were like, we're a gang now. And then so for at least 3 sessions, they would find me, they would circle around me and push me as hard as they could, and my body is getting just back and forth. And it's not the physical pressure or pain, it's the social damnation that's happening in front of everyone, and the fact that you're just getting betrayed. Like, from a Christian perspective, it's just like, Jesus. Like, I mean, fucking Jesus, I'm getting the shit kicked out of me. But yes, like Jesus. And then so, I mean, it's like woo-woo now. It's just like, yeah, paid some dues, and I'm not a murderer. So just from that standpoint, must be like a pretty darn good person. I want to talk about pogs because that's fun. But I will just say, eye for an eye, a fist for a fist, metal on metal. It's like, I mean, if you do it correct, I've been reading all these Jack Reacher books, and it's just like, I don't see it. Like, this last one is great. He's like, football players, like they fight, but they're fun fights. Like, no one expects to die. Like, but when when you get into a real fight, no, it's to the death. I mean, unless you're just playing around. I mean, so even at that middle school age, I mean, we don't live in a world that's jaded anymore. I mean, or just like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but like, so part of, facilitating a group that talks about mental illness, one of the topics that can come up is suicide. QPR is a great course that anyone can take. It's like first aid for suicide. Like, it's like, and something that's just like you don't even know the steps. Like, well, maybe we should just talk about it. But there is, I mean, it basically comes down to like, hey, are you having suicidal thoughts? Yeah, we all are. Yeah, COVID, right? Yeah, like we can all agree to that. Now, have you, so have you thought about, just suicidal thoughts. Well, have you thought about killing yourself? That's suicidal thoughts. Yes. We've all had COVID. Like, literally. So we can joke about that. Now, have you thought about a way that you would do it? Like, does your mind go to, like, oh, yeah, like, I'd for sure do hanging or try to shoot myself or, like, take all my pills. And that's just another echelon. It's like, okay. So do you have actually the means of, like, I mean, you have pills you're taking, so that is kind of like you've thought about it, and then do you have the means, like just, are you like, that kind of, so it's this whole layer of like, well then, have you thought about like when, like a time frame, you're just like, if shit don't go right, it's like, I'm done, you know what I mean, like, and then just saying that is like, well, that sounds like a 4-month, or even sooner. It's like, that kind of works. So then that sets it up. It's just like, oh, okay, well, it's, So if it's like, yes, and then you, I mean, I guess that other part is direct towards help. But you can understand that there's this echelon. And even in our group, we use that to be like, it's got to be a yes on all of them, to be like, okay, we have something here that, I mean, do we need to call 911? So it's like part of our group manual in the teachings is, do you manage that? But then we also are a group that can talk about a subject like that, so it's very important to be not beating around the bush about topics. I mean, if you can joke about the first one, it's like, yeah, you can get to the point where you joke about all of them. Especially if everyone's no on all of them, it might be a great time to be like, yeah, kind of like, hey, we can joke about these things because at some point we're all gonna be a yes. We're all gonna fit into that category of like, dude, I can't do this. Like, and then, or see that person that you're just like, oh man, they can't do this anymore. And I don't have all the solutions. But yeah, QPR is maybe there to be like, at least recognize and direct. Make sure you're getting that mind to professionals. And overseeing. That's why I have the commercial. Like, oh yeah, my buddy took my guns away, and yeah, I didn't want to. Thought it was a good idea. Stuff like that. We live in Montana, so it's just kind of I don't own guns. I guess there's a hunting gun in the house, but yeah. But yeah, no, I just laugh about that because it's just like, yeah, if you got mental health issues, that's the last thing you want just around. You don't want those means to the ends, at your ready so easily. Yep. So. Yes, so talking about being suicidal in a group, what I was getting at is it's important to talk about being homicidal. Like, I have already mentioned a story where I used a tactic just to stay awake that was a little psychopathic when it comes to driving on the freeway. It's like, how much of driving on the freeway is, just the way people drive in general, it's like, yeah, it's a little free-for-all up there. No one's following all the rules, and no one, if literally I could push a button that would take me twice as long to get to a destination, but I could just guarantee I would get there safely. And maybe I would have the benefit of reading a book on the way. I would 100% choose that travel over just the tossing up the odds of just a bunch of people trying to figure it out on that freeway. Of just always kind of being right on the wheels vibrating, that corner holding. Yeah, it can be. It's close calls out there. Lots of close calls, and if you're a highway patrolman, you probably got some stories to share. And it doesn't feel good when maybe you're the safe driver and then other people are bullying you too, like seeing you as a safer, slower driver, so really buzzing you. This ain't a woo-woo topic that don't have evidence for. This is just human nature. This happens all the time. It's like you hate the slower driver in front of you, but let's say you're a pretty slow driver. Well, everyone behind you hates you. So theoretically, you just have this this circle of hate where no one likes anyone. And then we live in, and I love to bring this up because we almost live in a world where you want everyone to be like you, but that's Twilight Zone, baby. You don't want everyone to be like you. But sometimes we can get into the mindset politically of if everyone was like me, especially driving, was just like, well, yeah, you drive 7 miles over the speed limit, right in that comfort zone of hey, I'm pretty fast, I'm not getting pulled over. Well, yeah, you probably hate everyone that drives the speed limit. And people that drive 15 over the speed limit hate you. Get out of my way. Just from the space, I'm just using the word hate as a get your attention word, but get out of my way. It's yeah, you yield to me. that bully. Hey, I'm the fastest driver. It's like, it's like a fight. It's like crazy beats crazy. It's like nah. Like, get out of my way. I mean, yeah. So what happens on the freeway? So all I was mentioning was I just used a tactic of like, someone's buzzing me. It's just like, well, I don't like that you're in my personal zone. So like once they pass it, I'm just gonna follow you like a cop does, like a speed, just follow you. Just get into your zone. Like just purposely do something that's just in your comfort zone, not even putting you in safety at all. But it was because I knew there was a sharp corner up ahead, and I knew that he would accelerate, and then just wondering if he would slow down for it, if he even knew that really icy corner that you really want to go like a pretty slow speed, especially on that night. So yeah, that was a little psychopathic, but I knew it would keep me up. And didn't do anything illegal. I was like literally a quarter mile back. I was just using psychology to get into his mind. Just like the human nature is really perceptible to like, whoa, get out of my zone. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I know you're doing something intentional, so like, I don't like that. But I was just using that as a tactic to stay awake. But yeah, that fits the bill of like plenty of people are probably homicidal out there. Get out of my way. It's like total disregard for, trying to make sure your ride is your day is safe and pleasant. It's like, no, I'll be alive, but I'm just trying to get by. So yeah, so you have this level of homicidal nature using vehicles just in general. And it's probably the most homicidal a human can get is when they get behind the wheel, because just in general day, it would just be, you can kind of get away with those subtleties. It was like, it was an accident. Even people are pushing the limit just a little bit. And that's where dash cams, people that are actually making very purposefully dangerous choices to tailgate and to brake and to cause accidents out there, are getting kind of called out. But yeah, it's one aspect. It's just like, yeah, we all suicidal. Yes, Corona, you know what I mean? Makes us all suicidal. Jesus, like this, yeah. Question reality. It's like, oh my God. But yeah, are we all homicidal? Yes. Comically, yes, we are all homicidal. Especially when it comes to bullying. Kid gets bullied, beat up. It's like, Jesus. Yeah, you'd just rather have that other kid not exist. I mean, like, but yeah, we're rational beings. But then you see the school shootings, and you see irrationality come to the forefront. So yeah, I mean, it's an awakening that people need to be taken care of, and homicidal ideation sounds like a topic you shouldn't bring up, shouldn't talk about, but I just kind of showed that, yeah, people have it on when they drive a vehicle, and it's an appropriate topic to bring up. And so even from facilitating a group that discusses things about mental health, I'll kind of just bring it up in a loose way. There's no literature on bringing it up, but yeah. It's a topic that's well received because you're not, if you don't bring it up, then you're not observing an element. You're not observing an emotional element that you're feeling, like when you're. And it goes back to plenty of suggestions for kids that are getting bullied are like toughen up, like literally fight back. And I just come from the perspective that would have never been me. I mean, it would have took me 3 years to get to the toughened perspective where I was able to, and middle school is over. So I mean, it's like that wasn't a solution for me when I realized this shit's a problem. And there's an element of wanting these people not to exist. I mean, yeah, you want the problem to go away. And it's even to the point where it's just like, yeah, my dad has to see the repercussions of middle school kids on his son for the rest of his life. And, you know, and I'm glad me and my dad have a real good relationship. And, cause I have to curb his enthusiasm and be like, no, I'm fine. Like, I have to deal with it on a daily basis, but we all get it. I just want to make sure, you know, I even, tell I just want to make sure my nieces and nephews, my brother's kids, you know, the red flags go up when that stuff gets real. And most of them are all past the point of no return. You know, they're all in good position going into high school, past that middle school age. So it's just real. It's real good to see success. Because I mentioned, things are getting really good in the schools. It's just like, probably not. Across America, things probably aren't. I mean, it's really hard to expect a teacher to, I subbed in an elementary school. It's like, I have no idea how you take Lord of the Flies and make sure it's just not damaging. Because even the cool teachers that didn't help me at all, like even it's like, this teacher is cool and we all enjoy like going to that person's class. Like my bullying it was actually worse because that teacher gravitated and was friends with most of the, the king of the mountain people, like the bullies. And then so, I mean, it's not a teacher that I can relate to. That was a class where I got bullied the most. So even a teacher that potentially has the ability to socially, befriend the bullies, isn't using their authority to make sure their class is safe. And the opposite would be like, it's not going to be any easier. A teacher that can't even get through, the bullies won't, treat a teacher with respect. It's like, that teacher's not going to be any helpful. Because I imagine those classrooms just the same. It was just interesting that this 6, just because our last names fit on a page the same, and they went through the computer the same, I was in every class with them all through middle school, and all through those 3 years. And no fault of mine, because one of the symptoms of being bullied is not speaking up. I mean, it's just you get paralyzed. There's no way you're going to bring that crap to the street. You're just trying to survive, whether suicide was a thing or not. It's like I definitely, just from human nature, you're just trying to make it a dream, like that you can just not have to experience. But yeah, that would have been my classic solution. Best is just, hey, I still want to be in the middle school, but yeah, let me just never be in classes with this 6. Like, let's name them all, and then set up the computers where we're just never in the same classes. And it's middle school. There's 4 different teams, so it's like there should have been a 1 in 4 chance that I wasn't on even the same team, but then we were, and then we're almost in the same classes. So just by that aspect, that would have changed my life. That would have been a starting point. But yeah, and I'm a survivor enough where I'm talking about this, where plenty of people that didn't have to go through a lot of bullying, there's no need for them to, potentially overcome that social hurdle of coming out and talking about a topic that people just don't want to hear about. So that's why I talk about mental illness, bullying, and kind of my story, just to make sure solutions happen from a realistic perspective. Like, my 2, get me the hell out of that whole middle school, because I was getting seriously bullied by everyone. But just those 6 probably changed my life to what it is today. But even then, it's not fun getting bullied by the whole group or the variety of group constantly, because then, you feel like your whole world is against you. So now going back to this concept of dreaming, that's where it's interesting. I mean, maybe just because I'm dreaming it and it's all coming from my subconscious, but there's plenty of times where bullies in my dreams are actually fairly considerate. Like they're learning, they understood their mistakes, and that was this dream last night. And it's just kind of nice. And I've used this litmus test, don't want to get too personal, but let's just say for other people that for whatever reason we butt heads. It's better if we just don't have to interact at all. But those people in my dreams, sometimes they're nasty, but sometimes they're better than they are normally. So, and that's interesting, because like in real life, everyone still has their guards up, pretty, ram head against ram head, trying not to lose any inches. King of the mountain. So I do my best of just sometimes calling it a loss, and just making sure I stay away from that interaction. But I do enjoy when my dreams are processing a better person. My dreams are processing a person that, is understanding to the situation and is, yeah. And it's still just a normal ass person, but it's just like, that you get how it's hard for people to get there. Damaged people, it's hard for people to get to a state of breaking negative habits and not, constantly being a trigger of trauma in other people's lives. And I was even going to start this video. I was like, I'm just going to make this really quick and actually just name names, because it was enough where it was, out of the 6, it was not the first 2 main links in the chain. It was like the next rung up of like the kids was like, yeah, we hung out once. Like we went to the same school. It's like you should, elementary school, it's like, man, you should be at some point the bigger person. And I'm going to use my filter just for I don't want to give away, any of the details of the dream, but it was just interesting. I'm not going to use names, so that was just interesting. But, there was a recognition of the trauma. There was, an understanding of like, like the person was uncomfortable just like, knowing that was the elephant in the room. And then I used that person in the dream to talk about the kid who bullied me the most, kind of that ringleader. And I was like, how is he? So you probably talked to him. It's like, how is he? He's like, well. And actually, no, I've looked up his profile once because he came up on my cousin's page. For whatever reason, my cousin's like, oh, that kid bullied you? Yeah, he's one of my friends on Facebook. And I was like, oh, Jesus, why? So how do you know him? And she's like, I have no idea, but I'll defriend him. I was like, you don't have to. I really don't care, because it's like, it seems like a person from the Robert, and then you defriend him. It seems like it makes it an issue. So she never defriended him. It was still on there. So then I was curious, and, so I did the one time. I just want to kind of see if it's an appropriate thing to try to break some of those trauma ties and see what a person's life looks like, because they're not that middle school kid. There's plenty. You don't need to be young to not cause damage. It's like being young doesn't mean you're not causing damage. There's plenty of damage done 6th, 7th, and 8th. Even after 6th grade, I think 7th grade, he comes up to me the first day of school. He's like, oh, I really apologize for last year, and, I'm going to try not to bully you. So it's interesting. That's like literally a bully from, birth bully. It's like a person who's predetermined to like need this element in his life from probably that hierarchy of like, or the questioning like why people are bullies and why they get bullied. Like, you know, that he probably ticked all the boxes. But yeah, that was actually the worst. 7th grade was the worst, and then I don't think 8th grade was any better. I was just finally done with it. I think it got a little bit better because going into middle, yeah, still tough. But obviously he's not the same person. And I know he's not the same person because all of high school, all of these 6 went to the same high school together. Zero, like no interaction. Like I would maybe pass him in the halls, but it's just finally, there was no need for this group to even acknowledge me. Even from the bully standpoint, there's always that attraction of a person who's getting bullied to just stand in the freight train of a bully, and then that freight train needing something to run over. I mean, it's a very attractive force. When I was subbing, I would see it quite a bit, and even this one time I saw it, it's just like, wow, it's like the 2 people that are getting attention on the side are in the same room now, just the 2 of them, and they're at each other's throats. They need to know exactly where the other one is, and they need to know that there's this idea that the other one can be severely punished. And just because of resources, that's the way it turns out, but it don't seem like an end game that's going to work out. I mean, those 2 would be better off not having friends for a stretch and then having that loss be used towards searching for a different one. Even just a new relationship, is even if it's the same pattern as the old, is more easier to make a better connection the next time around. Yeah, it's like this the classic bully, so attracted, and then the person getting bullied, so it just like magnets. But yeah, all of high school, just nothing. So that was so nice. And even that kind of that the kid is a ringleader or whatever, I don't even know. But he was just the most aggressive. He just had so much aggressive tendency in him. And that's where I was the last relationship, you know, it's like when you date at my age, you're dating people that are, you know, divorced or whatever, and you know, you're spending time with kids. It's like, yeah, there's just that same identity, that same identification in this person that I was taking care of for even just a short time. And it was like, yeah, just that same drive to injure and, you know, aggression. And, you know, I pat myself on the back because I did the work that I wanted to do. Even, yeah, I know these things are short term. It's like I had no long term. I just know life is life. Know how things are gonna, you know, it doesn't take a brain science to be perceptive to like, yeah, this is gonna work out for this amount of time, or you know, and have high hopes for longer or whatever. But that's what it was, and shoot, I'm very satisfied to be a little part of that person's life. You know, I mean, determinism is determinism, kinda, but there's always that, yeah, transcension, you know, so like, I don't think any human being thinks they live in a, like 100%, you can't, like determinism controls everything, blah, blah, blah. No, we live in a society of choices. And we live in a society of kind of like unknowns, of just like, I don't know, like the woo side. There's so many forces at play in our life that like, what was the one seed that got planted that, you know, finally inspired you to go do something? Yeah. I mean, it's the idea of talking in front of a camera and publishing. Like, it's dead to me if I just talk into a front of a camera and it just being this hidden secret, you know what I mean? So, yeah. One of that 6 did pass away. I just had my 20th class reunion. I didn't go to my 20th. I went to my 19th class reunion. No one was there. It was the best day of my life because I'm an introvert. No, that's the joke I'm trying to work on. But yeah, I did not go to my 20th class reunion. And a lot of people... I was worried that these kids would be there. And that was an irrational... That was so irrational. It's like, no. None of these kids are there. No, but it wasn't even that 6. It was... I got bullied by a lot of kids in middle school, and I just can't take it. It's like... And I have mental illness. I just don't want to show that side of just like... Yeah, life is hard and it can kick your butt. And this is kind of what it looks like. You know, I feel like I'm stronger on the outside, but I got a lot of disabilities. You know, determinism. Like, it is what it is. I shouldn't be ashamed, but I did not go. And it was okay, because I mean, people that could have gone, that are social, you know, giants that I have as friends too, they're just like, nah. It's like, if I want to hang out with someone, I'll just call them up and we'll go hang out. I don't need to hang out with these strangers just based on... And I don't drink, party, so... I mean, half of getting together with a high school reunion is to hash something that was high school. And my close-knit of friends, besides one, all of them were not in the same grade. So, yeah. But yeah, out of that 5 or 6 people, I mean, out of that 6, one passed away. I don't know any... You know, I just speculate. It's just all speculation on how you die early, just what statistics you fall into. I don't know how they passed away. But yeah, that's my reaction. I mean, if you're going to be honest about, like, understanding the traumas and, like, judgment, justice, you know, lack of justice... Having to just move on when life is what it is, you know, and then hearing, no, I just want to be frank. It's like, I'm not psychopathic in the idea that I wish them all dead, but I mean, I want to jokingly say that I think we all fit that category of like, yeah, there's, whether it's political, you see things in life that you're just like, man, this is like, people should not be, yeah, you're just like, why do bad people exist? You know what I mean? It's just like, I mean, it's like, I do not like the good and evil. Like, I don't think, I think evil is such a definite, I mean, it's like such a term, just like I would capture your attention by saying I'm like atheist or like, you know, witchcraft, voodoo, occult, you know, saying the word evil. I don't know. It loses its meaning because but I just like to speak from, like, we live in a world where people create situations that, yeah, they are harmful to others. So that's a good place to start. You see someone that is harming others, and then kind of statistically, you know, they'll keep harming others, you know, from a middle school perspective. So then it's like, do everything in your power to prevent that. You know, I mean, like I said, it's like, these are middle school minds. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do? There's no punishment, there's no judgment involved that's going to change this behavior, you know. So, like, I like from the solution of, knowing something is possible and then doing something to prevent it in that aspect. Yeah, knowing someone's going to bully, and then just knowing that, yeah, it's going to happen again. So what do we do to, yeah, just use the easy stuff to separation and yeah, I don't know. And it could be even helpful when it comes to, I don't know, this is a stretch, but like when it, yeah, no, this is important. I mean, just the fact that I've used the word homicide in a vlog or document or diary, and you know how I've introduced it from the mental health, just even from that comical standpoint, it's just like, nah, you don't think you're homicidal, but yeah, you are. And then I guess I didn't really get to the gist of like, yeah, my dad's just, you know, it's just like, whoa, I think I've shared too much, where my dad's actually like now pissed that this group of kids like totally, you know, fucked me over, where you get homicidal. And it's just like, no, Dad. You know, it's like, nope, like I'm stronger because of it, and like I have to work on it every day, but no more than you have to work on the same shit that happened to you when you were a kid. I mean, we all, you know, it's like both kind of Irish and, yeah, potentially come from a perspective where you get targeted. For sure, from that maybe weak Irish perspective. I don't know, but that's one aspect, and then you just have the characteristics aspect. You know, coming from a family that people see as a jealousy note of like, oh, you came from a family who gave a shit about you, you know, and then all the people that came from a family that they can't say, did your family give a shit about you, and answer that question, yes. Yeah, trauma, a lot of work to be done. I mean, just that's a burden that you'll have to overcome. Determinism, you know. So yeah, but it's good to talk about something that is in the limelight. I mean, it's like homicidal nature. Yeah, we're all a little bit homicidal. And then just to open up that social, you know, that dialogue with that, we should have a yeah, this is straight up. It's so hard to be frank. It's just like, no. We should have a first aid line for and they do. So I think, for sure they do. It should be more advertised. I think if you're feeling homicidal, you can call a number that's like, dude, I'm feeling homicidal. Like, what, you know, it's like same with suicide. I'm feeling suicidal. They told me to call. I called. Now what? You know what I mean? Like, then you get that help. Especially when we got school shootings. I mean, it's just like, it's like the fire department having the little hatch for the baby. It's just like, you know, life is life. I got to put my baby in this hatch. You know, it's like, hopefully somebody else can care for it. I was gonna do something other than put it in that hatch, had that little hatch not been there, you know, so like have that option. School shooting, same thing. It's like, have that, I mean, like, yeah. It's like, you know, I mean, that's the place to care for those broken minds. Like, obviously, there's elements of trauma leading up to that point that you become homicidal. And so, yeah, I guess I'm just going to do my due diligence, maybe researching those homicidal hotlines and QPR strategies for suicidation, you know, like understanding the signs of homicidal ideology. Yeah, I mean, we live in a world where, yeah, if we know the minds that are, you know, the kids that didn't, yeah, if we reverse engineer school shootings to like characterization of how those two things line up, then potentially we can do a better job of caring for people. Yep. Hashtag, try not to slip through the cracks. In this together. And in that dream, that second link's like, oh, you should call. You should, like, the ringleader. He said, you know what? You should call him. And then that was kind of like the part of the dream that's just like, oh, it's like, oh, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I wake up and I was like, I'm doing none of those things. But I was like, but I really wanted to actually make a video on it because it is a good thing. I woke up and I can't get back to sleep. That's a dream where I was already in a pattern where I went to bed early or at a time where I knew I was only going to sleep 4 hours and then wake up and then just be wide awake. That dream was a little icing on the cake to be like, well, not going to sleep. So I was going to come down and make a video. I was like, it could even be short. I was like, well, yeah, because it was a good video. It was retribution. You're just not going to get this. Like, these kids that bullied me, they're not going to know my perspective on that. Nor would they really care. Because, like, the fifth guy, like the lower man on the echelon, it's like, I could get him riled up because he also was not going to push you or hit you. And he was an easy target, I guess. I was easy, but didn't seem easy, but for whatever, I'm easy. And then from my perspective, he's a really easy target. And then so we would verbally, bully each other. And do I think much of him? No. Not at all. Like remorse? Not really. Maybe did I feel like the bullying was equal? Maybe. Yeah, from that college football, from that Jack Reacher of like the football players getting into fights of like, yeah, it's kind of an equal playing field, muscle for muscle. Where that whole ganging up on me or the whole school kind of isolating an individual and making fun of them, that's not an equal playing field. That's not equal. So the trauma is more real, and then yeah. But I get it. I mean, there's a chance that the people that bully me, it's like, nah, don't even think anything of it. And I potentially agree with them because I don't think anything of that one kid. It's just life is life, and surviving. Determinism. Back in middle school, nothing I could do. Nobody taught me anything better. Survival. But yeah, I have a head on my shoulders that no, I'd apologize. There's no reason for that. If I was a bigger person, I would have tried to. No, I'm just gonna go homeschool. Like, I don't need to be here anyway. Like, I'll be the one to step away from this. You guys can do whatever you need to do. So yeah, so this dream was nice of that recognition. It was like that second echelon was like, yeah, it's like, yeah, middle school is middle school. And, but he wasn't mean about it. But then he also said, it's like, yeah, you should probably call, yeah. I was like, how's he doing? And, yeah, I looked from his Facebook. He's like, yeah, it looks like he's doing pretty good. And, as best as you can for determinism. I mean, for a bully growing up and trying to make something. And he made a shift in high school. He never bothered me. And he went on a separate route, like art and stuff like that. So it's, came into his own. And he had to overcome, like I said, like family issues. Like, I remember. It's like, I'll speak frankly now that, yeah, his dad was really, like, he was, even the sports, not to get too specific, but yeah, his dad was really hard. Like, really harsh. Total bully. Ugh. So, I mean, just classic. You have to deal with that. Determinism. It's like, and then you have to deal with the aftermath. Yep. So don't want to use people's names, but obviously, just like anyone talking about, if any adult talks about getting bullied from middle school, obviously you can do the research and ask people and get down to those names. But for the general, it's, pretty anonymous. I mean, it's just, it's stories that will repeat in society, have to this day, every year, new group goes into middle school. Challenges always there. Even after decade after decade coming with better solutions, you still have harder problems, And no, I do not see metal on metal, fist on fist, eye for eye. I guess from the perspective of but then is no one a weak person where no one can be a naive or a person that just, you know what I mean? Like, if everyone's got to be tough, like, the whole school's a gang. They just don't make sense. I mean, it makes sense if you want your kid not to get the punishment, but it's just getting pushed off onto the next weakest link. So there is an element of understanding, developing skills at an elementary school age to be ready for the combat of middle school. I guess I get that. But there also should be tactics of reducing exposure and eliminating exposure just from a separation, an idea of separating. I don't know. My ideal classroom is like, I don't understand from the subbing perspective. I'm not very good at understanding how to take control of a classroom. I was talking to like the teachers of how they're just like, no, like 5th grade, I'm good at it, what I do, and all the teachers that are teaching is like, they're good at it because that's what they do. I came in from a substitute, I just want to dip my toes in and try it out, and it's really difficult. Most subs are just ex-teachers, and they even find it difficult. That's like still really hard. But the 5th grade teacher is like, yeah, we spend 2 weeks establishing rapport, 2 weeks establishing expectations, 2 weeks establishing rules and, boundaries and respect and expectations. And also probably 2 weeks of like, hey, we got to start from a standpoint of like, I would imagine it's got to be halfway fun too. Because you're dealing with people and psychology and obviously, trying to turn the switch on, on the human brain, and instead of turning the switch off and just maintaining. But I had a hard time subbing. It was difficult. And just even my dad's generation. My dad went to a Catholic high school, and no, discipline was an element. People don't like the word discipline, and I'll agree. It's like, but there is a level of, even if you're binging YouTube video after YouTube video, you're disciplining yourself to watch YouTube videos. Where also we know that, we can, that when we do have to do schoolwork, and from that school perspective, whether it's schoolwork or secondary, college, you do sit down and discipline yourself to do that. And at no time is ever having a classroom full of kids around you, just within social distance, ever helping that aspect of helping you develop discipline to, start your process. And that's where I subbed also Montessori, same classroom of kids, but they're in their own worlds, like once they go about their business. I mean, it is like Montessori is like almost structured like a job, like a workplace. Like in the working world, you get there, you socialize, you kind of have that meeting, and and then at some point you're like, you have to go on your own. And it's this, oh, I can't just constantly, pester the person next to me from that bullying perspective, or ride through school just looking over someone's shoulder, getting all the answers. But jokingly, I'll tell a portion of Montessori that I thought like works. I mean, because it's like an office. You have people that are employed. They come to work, kind of have that morning meeting, and then at some point they got to go do their own work, like their own. They're all doing a different task, but they all got to go do it. And then and then everyone's at a different, level of, or just doing something different. Even if it's not even a level, they're just doing something different. And then so obviously one person, you get into like I'm kind of stuck. I need to go ask my neighbor, for help. Well, it's totally the working world where it's like the second you ask your neighbor to help something on your project, they're like, dude, I'm not even working on that project, but yes, I'll help you because I know how now. So now you have this student who for sure wants to be the teacher because they're like, oh yeah, no, I can help you out with that. And you have this really organic experience that you don't get when you have the same... In Montessori, this is like 3 grades all in the one. So you have this seniority where it's like, so somebody comes up to you and asks you, well, how do you do something? That person's like, oh, perfect. I feel proud of myself because I can teach this young Padawan how to do this little project. And, yeah. And the younger one knows that he'll get respect from the older one because that older one's getting fulfilled. That doesn't happen when you're all peers, total Lord of the Flies fighting for the same bits of food and the same social standing in the same classroom, same age. So that was one thing from Montessori, but it was almost from that office environment. It's like, hey, I'm doing something different. And yeah, it can be like I'm at a different level. We all start at different levels. But that's also good because then once a kid can't keep up at the same level as his peers, I mean, at that point, it's like the classroom is toxic to that kid's mind, thinking he's a failure. I can't do it. And it's like, I'm speaking frankly. Even from subbing, this happens a ton, where it's just like, no. It's just like, no, your brain and value and where you're at is 100% okay. And, it's so hard to convince someone not to compare them to their classmates when every day you can't keep up. So that's where kind of that Montessori is just like, well, start at your own pace. And these are just kind of like my observations. I don't even know if they fit into an ideology, but there are some things that work, and you don't have to make everything Montessori. It's just taking solutions that work and how do you apply that to the classroom. But I know Montessori was like, go find your corner. You can crawl on the floor if you want. I mean, typical Montessori, very organic in nature, kind of from that mindset of like, yeah. So yeah, I mean, would you ever yeah, plenty of middle school kids we play pogs on the floor all the time. Yes, like, we should probably be doing all our work on the floor. I mean, just have that out. But yeah, the second you're in a desk right next to someone, especially if it's causing friction for 3 years, not good. And again, I'll take a step back. Not trying to solve any problems at a significant level. I'm just stating my observations, and it's interesting to see what things I think work. And I like that Montessori from the job aspect. It's just like, yeah, you go ask someone for help. It's like, well, you recognize that they're taking time out of their day to help you, and you appreciate that more instead of just like, dude, we all have the same assignment. Just give me the answers. I'll pay you. Sixth grade, we had like currency, so you'd rack up enough currency just to pay for copying, and that happens when everyone's on the same level. It gets more complicated if you're just all at a different. It's like. Yeah, it's like, well, I'd have to redo that assignment to actually give you the answers, so it's going to cost you more. But when everyone's doing the same assignment, chiseling out the same answers, that also can set you back. Copying. I mean, and I'll be frank, I copied all the way through college. Yeah, you get to the point, it's just second nature. And it should be like one of the most taboo things you could ever do, copy. But at a certain point, you can't copy on the test, so, that's how it all equals out. I mean, in college especially, like, if you pass the test, that is the litmus test that you understood the material. But yeah, the daily grind of assignments, sometimes you could definitely get into I'm just going to pay for this. Pay for these answers. Yeah, so I'm glad I shared that on Montessori. Because also, same as cross country, it was 4 grades all in the same group. Montessori is 3 grades, kind of all in the same group. And you kind of take care of each other more like a family. Now, it's no end-all solution. My cousins run a school that's very much structured like that, and I mean, human nature is human nature. Problems are problems. You see it all, both places. So, so it still opens up that conversation of like, what are solutions that have worked? I'm just pointing out stuff that, briefly from a couple times of substituting. Well, I did it for 2 years, but it was difficult. So I'm always getting to a better place on bullying, and it's nice when you have something resolve in your mind, even if it's in a dream, even if it's dream characters that you're dreaming through your own self, so like that's what's making them a little bit more tame, and in real life, they're still horrible people. I mean, just from that joking standpoint of like, I mean, they might cause you harm, and they might go into the same habits that they, were in. But it's just nice to have your mind processing that in a way that's forgiving nature. I mean, I don't really have a big ideology on, purposely trying to, forgive people in my waking life, or more just on that, on my take-home message, just separation, like identification, separation. If we take a topic that's going to drive someone to suicide or a life of trauma just from 3 measly years of their life, and we're only talking a fraction of the percent of people in a middle school. Yes, everyone kind of has to deal. It's like me and that kid. That's why I don't really give a shit, because we were both antagonizing at the both level. That was the eye for the eye, and we didn't throw fists, and we weren't friends, and it felt equal. Yeah. And could that aspect of life get better? Sure. But is it something, I mean, I'm sure he's got a smile on his face if he wants to be like, oh, I wish I could punish that David kid more. It's like, well, yeah, the group you were with kicked the shit out of me. Like, yeah, I mean, if you're into that kind of like necessary thing in your brain to be the king of the mountain, it already happened. Like, but it is interesting. So there is a difference between bickering and being like benign stuff. It's like, nah, like I'm hard as a rock when it comes to that aspect. But when it comes to like people that you're trying to be friends with walking away, like big disappointments in life, or having an entire school turn inward on you, having a group of like 6 get into a gang mentality, and I mean, even from my story, God, that's got to be small potatoes getting just shoved violently like 3 times, and then me trying to find an escape. It's more of like a passive hero story than, you know, potentially some of these things, but equally damaging and knowing. But that's the take-home message. It's like identification, separation. Identification, solution that you know works. Not fairy tailing it that like, oh, it shouldn't happen. Like, cause yes. And yes, it shouldn't happen. But also, it's like the same people, like if you like go to a YouTube comment, sometimes that's not going to give you the 2 best answers. It's going to give you the 2 worst answers. One saying this shouldn't happen, like go after him judicially. You know what I mean? It's just like, great. That's not going to potentially, yes, sure, definitely. Treat it legally. Yeah, like it should be a crime, but what the hell? It's still middle school. You're still dealing with the juvenile brain. That's why we don't do, like, yeah. But it also, yeah, there needs to be solutions at that caliber where, I mean, you take a kid. I mean, the same as, you know, like, you know, babysitting someone that, you know, where you're just like, it was separation and then, you know, trust, like loving nature, but yeah, to protect the kid that gets bullied, I mean, you can't have high hopes here. And I just don't think it's rational to take someone who's already a weak link and saying toughen up or, you know, get him into martial arts. You already missed that bus, you know, and you're still just passing the buck. You're just passing the buck to the kid that's weaker. Socially, strength-wise, or, you know, both. And it's not just one kid, but it is a small fraction. I was probably one of 10. I can easily say that I was one of 10 of the people that got bullied the most. I put myself in a classification of one that I kind of was a bridge. Like, I could still kind of hold my own socially with, even though I was getting enough beration from 4th, 5th, for sure 6th, 7th, and 8th, that my social skills were just crumbling. My ability to function as a human the trauma was getting unreal. Anxiety, you can't function at all. So then when you're talking to, I mean, especially making friends, it's all about being cool, acting cool. There's not a cool vibration coming out of my body when I've experienced that much trauma. This was a really good session. Ready to wrap it up. I like to get passionate, but also talking through the lens, it's definitely calming. It's never, like I said, if I talk to someone, you have to talk to someone, and then you have to, like, their response, they get an opinion. We're just talking is the ability just to share one side and without the threat of opposition, and also still using my cognition to maintain boundaries and trying to make sure I come out somewhere positive. And if I come out somewhere positive, I'm sure there's a positive message from the other side. That's why I'm so glad to make this video tonight on the topic, having that dream. No names were used, and I imagine none of those people would ever watch my content. Like, that's just, but at least it's there as kind of like a testament, a document of you know, of like a, yeah, like that forgiveness over it, come to a better realization, better understanding, not the biggest threat on my mind, you know, tried to release that. So there's not a day that goes by I don't think of this group of individuals, and in kind of a particular order. But I try to use them at advantage. Like when I'm thinking about them, I'm usually doing work. Like, you know, they made fun of my cutting ability. Like, I was like, no, I just told a story. I was like, yeah, and I always kind of just liked sharing funny things and, you know, kind of, I guess it was the MO. If I'm already getting made fun of for being unique and different or like an outsider, I might as well use that as my MO to gain attention or something and share something funny. So I'd be like, oh yeah, in middle school, I mean in kindergarten. In kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher told me I was a really good cutter. So I shared, it's like, yeah, we had this really detailed thing to cut out, and we're supposed to, the teacher's like, yeah, just cut around. It was way, I don't know why I printed this out for you guys to cut. But, and then I don't listen, so I just, you know, do my thing, and I like cut it out perfectly as a kindergartner, just all along the line. And then my teacher's like, wow, you're a really good cutter. And I told these bullies, you know, 'cause it's like, I'm socialized. This is like my only friends and the people that are destroying my life. So I gotta keep myself entertained somehow. So it's just like, yeah, my teacher said I'm a really good cutter. And you know what? I bet you that's gonna be my that's my ticket in life. Yeah, cutting real good. And honestly, it is like doing digitizing family photos. Yeah, you know, putting together scrapbooks and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, my cutting ability is tip top, and it's very interesting because my my grandpa, he, you know, great photographer, does all these slides. That's what I'm restoring, like getting the slides to digital. Already did it. Did that for my grandpa and grandma's stuff, but like, oh, he couldn't cut. I think he probably running families like arthritis and just chunky fingers, but oh my god, like nothing was straight. It was like, well, I'll just go this way for a while, and then I'll go this way for a while. So, you know, great photos, but then when you see it, it's all like, you know, cut funny. So I just thought that was interesting. But also a meticulous engineer, like every letter capitalized, every letter, every written manuscript, you know, perfect penmanship. And I mean, I get to the point where it's just like, I just want to scribble it down as fast as possible, and I can't even read it when I come back to it. But also did engineering school, and yes, capital letters. It's very methodical. If you write in all caps, it's almost impossible to write something that's illegible. Yeah, bringing it home, positive notes, always good to think about. You know, ancestors, think of grandpa a lot on that side. Yep. Yeah, it's always good to be in a more transcended state from something that you consider traumatic. Come out with a smile, some humor. And I don't know. It's like I do it. I mean, I got to do it through me. It's like I don't know. It's like, what a hassle to rattle this stuff off and pay someone $75 to listen to it. And it's more than $75 an hour anymore, you know. So, yep. Yep. All right. All right. Have a good one. I'm going to sign out for the evening unless I get excited about a whole new topic. But I think I'm good to go.